Trim, edge, and shave with Philips Norelco One Blade. One tool for all you need.
Philips Norelco One Blade presents Shave All Things. Your style made simple with Philips Norelco One Blade 360.
Trim, edge, and shave with Philips Norelco One Blade. One tool for all you need.
Philips Norelco One Blade presents Shave All Things. Your style made simple with Philips Norelco One Blade 360.
The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco One Blade. Welcome back, y'all, to another day of NACL Spring Playoffs. This time, we are heading into winners finals with 3 best-of-5s left in our Spring Playoffs bracket to find out who will be champion of NACL Spring. My name is Rafa. I'm joined by my very longtime good friend, Mr. Matthew Cubby David Samuelson. Always a pleasure to have you on the casting booth, buddy, but want to make a quick shout-out to Philips Norelco One Blade, as this show is presented by them, and I just noticed, no, my camera's dying right now. Hang on, the bit. Hang on. Wait.
Well, the bit's about my camera, Rafa. We don't need yours for this. You're going to put the focus here.
Well, not only Cubby got a fresh shave, but I noticed that I had a couple of stray hairs here. So I'm actually just going to get that going real quick.
I wasn't expecting that. I guess we didn't need the cam, you know?
There we go. Anyway, shout outs to Philips Norelco One Blade, keeping us freshly trimmed and looking smooth and razor sharp for today's broadcast. But let's go ahead and remind everyone how we got here in the first place. Let's pull up that bracket because we are heading into an epic winners finals here. The past 2 days, Matt, we had lower bracket action, and for the first time in a long time, we are heading into the upper bracket to see who is going to be the first of our 2 grand finalists.
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking of a lot of ways to describe this bracket. It really feels like we're in the upside down, and this has been far better than Season 5 of Stranger Things, as everything has been turned topsy-turvy in this bracket. We have had 26 out of 27 potential games. We have the 4th, 5th, and the 6th seeds remaining. Winthrop University has played as many games as teams used to play in a double round robin split of the LCS, just in this bracket alone. And it really feels like all of our teams have brought their best foot forward as they've tried to place that. And we've seen a lot of fun strategies, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of close series that have gone the distance.
Yeah, and Winthrop's story, definitely the big talking point here in Tier 2, as they are on a warpath, and the momentum they've been racking up for the past 2-3 best-of-5s now means that not only they are ready for whoever is knocked down to the lower bracket after today's series, but also shout out to all of our collegiate enjoyers. They are ready for a rematch against Maryville University tomorrow morning in the C-Lowell finals. So make sure you check that out if you can manage an earlier wake-up time. But before we get any further, Matt, I just want to get your quick insights about where CCG and Conviction are feeling at this point, mentality-wise, now that they are both 4th and 6th seed, respectively, from the regular season, being potentially a grand finalist already after today's match.
Well, I think on the side of Conviction, you look at that team and the nameplates on that team, they should be competing here. I know it was a bumpy regular season. They made some roster changes halfway through, bringing in Tactical and Bounty. Tactical, I think, has been a big boon for the team. Insanity has stepped up into the playoff form that we're used to seeing him in, dominate the league.
Playoff sanity, man.
Yeah, for CCG, I think that it's a little bit more of a surprise from the outside looking in to see them here. That said, Dardoch's not surprised. Talking with him before the series said, hey, you know, we had to go through NRG to get here. They were a little bit bumpy in the regular season, even though they were the 1 seed. They managed to take them down in the very convincing 2-0, and I think CCG as a squad expected to be here. So excited to see the teams go toe-to-toe today, as I know that Dardoch going up against Conviction, there is a ton of experience over on the Conviction side, and we'll see if Dardoch's experience and really good play that we've seen from him this season can match the might of the individuals of Conviction.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But what I'm looking forward to most is, apart from my camera coming back, is our game face interview with one of the coaches from our match today. Covey, I'm going to go ahead and let you greet our guest, Mr. Autoboost from CCG.
Yeah, let's get him on in here. Head coach of CCG, Autoboost. Good to see you again. I gotta say, the production behind the scenes asked that I do this interview in Spanish. I'm not that capable, so we're gonna have to stick to English for this one. But Autoboost, congrats on making it to the winners finals with the squad. Heading into the day today, curious, you guys are going up against Conviction. I love asking this question every single time I got a coach. What's the biggest challenge that Conviction presents you guys today as a team?
I mean, they are supposed to be like the best on every role, right? Like they should win only by like skill difference or like player pedigree kinda on almost every role. Like that's on paper, right? Other than maybe like Dardo and Codison having like some arguments on paper, but like I think the biggest difference between us and them as a team is just that we just play like together. Like a lot of people are talking about like a lot about Dardo, for example, that he's like snowballing games and like doing this like communication stuff, but like something people don't really take into account is that we actually like enable a lot of those like situations for like most of our players, right? Everyone knows like their role, so they actually play really good to like how they need to actually function. So that's the key part, I think, difference.
Yeah, talking with Dardoch before the series too, I always like to ask, shot callers what their content diet is in terms of trying to absorb information about the game, whether that's playing other roles in solo queue or just trying to watch as many VODs as possible. You gave some kudos to you and said that there's a lot of ideas being bounced around. How do you kind of go throughout a split, especially within the same patch now that all playoffs is on 0.10? Thank goodness, as 0.11 had a lot of changes on live servers today. But what's it been like for the two of you kind of going throughout this split? And for the rest of the team, like what ideas are you trying to bring to the team, or how do you balance out ideas that are brought in from your players and as you try and find the best strategies on the Rift?
I mean, I am glad it's the same patch, like, but changing patch between like playoff I think is really bad. But like yeah, I think same patch is pretty good. And then like ideas, they just come like randomly sometimes, like. It's either like a random LCK matchup, like LPL matchup, or I'm just watching like some random tier 3 division and it's like, that pick is kind of good. And, or like someone has like some epiphany, like, I know, Cody wants to play like a really old matchup and it's like, okay, we can try it. Dardo is the same thing. Or like, of course, Figgy, right? Like he has a weird champion pool, everyone knows it. So we just like, are you sure that matchup is okay? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, pick it. Let's see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun to see some experimentation, I think, across the board. Seeing a lot of picks incorporated. I think of late, the Nasus jungle definitely comes to mind. But looking at your team today, going up against Conviction, the might that you already kind of gave them kudos for. If today ends up being a CCG win, what do you think are going to be a few of the big takeaways that people are going to have? Or what does your team need to do today to make sure that you guys end up coming out on top?
I mean, I already said in many interviews that I don't really care about the result, like if we win or lose. It's mostly about like we actually show how we want to play. Like the way I built this team is about like I want to play a really specific way, and I want people to just like see it, right? Like many strategies or like small things that people that know about League actually realize that is happening in the game. Like that kind of like situation is like what I care the most, which is like showing that kind of stuff, like keeping consistent and actually improving. No one actually expected us or like pretty much Winthrop, I guess, to be on top 3. Like we already made that like a statement, right? That we are top 3. It's just about like actually being consistent right now.
Yeah, I think you guys have showed really consistent team play throughout, and it's been good to see some individual might in playoffs as well. To give kudos to you and your team. Autoboost, no, it's a big match today. I'll let you get back to the guys behind the scenes. Thanks so much for the time and thoughts heading into the matchup today, and best of luck to you and the guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, let's get Rafa back on in here. As Autoboost, I always really appreciate it. Feels like he drops the canvas down a little bit. It speaks very candidly about his team. And fun to hear. This has been a squad that I think have tried a lot of ideas throughout the split. I mean, one of the first interviews I did with him, I was talking about how they were swapping early before role quests were finished, something that not a lot of teams were doing earlier in the season. Globally, I think a lot more teams, especially after the changes being made to quests, where if you leave the lane that your quests are in, your diminishing returns aren't as bad as they were previously. But they were really ahead of the curve on some of those changes. And
the lane swaps, man.
Exactly. I think they were really at the forefront of bringing some of these things in with this unique team identity that has been very strong throughout the entirety of the split.
Yeah, and I appreciate also that he highlights the foundation for Dardoch to succeed comes from his laners being willing to sacrifice and being able to set up those states that Dardoch can thrive in the first place. And it's coming from much less experienced players, right? Dardoch is one of our most tenured veterans from ever since his days in LCS, and he has been here in the tier 3, tier 2 scene for quite a while, but it does require a whole team effort for jungle to thrive. But when jungle gets to thrive in this meta, it can be the most oppressive role to deal with in the game. So understanding how to get to that point is definitely key. As we start to dive into this winner's final matchup between Conviction and CCG, a reminder that for anyone tuning in, both of these teams were much lower in the regular season from where they are punching up now. But a lot of that comes from not only Conviction having a change in their roster with Tactical and Bounty coming on to the scene, as well as for CCG, not a roster swap, but a very, very needed glow up from Cody's son, who put on a hell of a performance, not only in their Winthrop series, but also in their series against Energy.
Yeah, I really do feel like CCG's been a strong team all split. I've had them in my top 4 all split, even if they had to wrap up in the 4th seed. And the road that they had here, again, kind of Dardoch saying they did give Energy a run for their money in the regular season. So I think that 2-0, especially just with how well Dardoch played in that series, it was a bit of a surprise for us. But again, CCG on there, and not very surprised to end up here. I think that for me, the surprise would be if CCG moves on from here, as we have a pretty split team and a little bit more CCG favored in terms of predictions, which I must say I'm a little bit surprised. I feel like the might that Conviction has shown in the last couple series, and for me, the form of Insanity and Tactical, it feels like they are 2 of the cheat codes that do exist in the league as people that just play at a really high floor, and also of late a high ceiling that we've seen out of them. So I really feel like keys going into today for CCG, this team plays very well as 5. And if they want to win the series today, they are going to have to match some of the might, kind of like what we saw yesterday with the interview we had with Tails and Winthrop, saying, hey, we respect NRG's ability to lane. I had Zamido and Mini as my 2 first-team All-Pro solo laners. Winthrop were able to match that and then outplay them in the team elements of the game later on. And I do think that that has been really the story of the bracket so far for me, is the fact that I think the teams that are left are the ones that have had the best macro so far. I want to see that continues today, because I feel like CCG, especially, they play some of the later stages of the game, with Fiji just being really intelligent about what waves he opts to play or drop in the side lanes, as being someone that is oftentimes on tanks. I think that that's going to be a big key to victory for CCG, because Sniper's not going to play the same champion pool that Fiji has going into the day.
Well, we say that, but they are putting this boy on more and more tanks for the team. And let's go ahead and remind ourselves who is on that starting 5 for today's series. For Conviction, Sniper, Tomio, Insanity, Tactical, and Bounty. As you mentioned, Sniper, obviously a lot of LCS fans will be very familiar with his explosive and very memorable debut with 100 Thieves. The very first game played was on that signature Riven that he and the rest of the Shura family do share. But Sniper has been trying to expand his champion pool, trying to play a lot of more of the meta champions, has been putting a lot more time recently onto the Gnar and the Scion as well. Obviously, when we look at Fiji on the other side of the rift, we know that Fiji has kind of made a very big name for himself as one of the few rookies that we've ever encountered coming up through top lane that has been a tank specialist. But I think for Conviction's game recently, a part of that success, we talk about Insanity coming into playoffs form, being a cheat code, Tactical, very reminiscent of his Luminosity run with them last year, also coming into playoffs, being a cheat code. But I think it is important to mention as well that Sniper is making strides in trying to clean up his game and making sure that if he's not on a carry, he is still going to be consistent and useful to the team.
Yeah, Sniper didn't have a great regular season. He didn't make my All-Pro voting. And going into the season, I feel like looking at the names in top lane, even though it was a role I said that I felt like was the deepest 1 through 10 in NACL, Sniper would be on your All-Pro list going into this split. He just wasn't consistent enough, and we have seen that improve in playoffs. But yeah, Sniper overall, he's got 6 tank games total between the Scion, Ornn, and Cassante. Those 3 champions are Fiji's 3 most played, and he's tallying nearly 20 tank games selected, which has been the majority of games. So really feel like Fiji, again, as that rookie, it's weird for us to see a player come in that, for me, has so many soft or cerebral skills in terms of how he views the map and plays it. We're used to seeing players come in, be really mechanically strong, and then kind of round out how they are able to play the map and play the team game. Fiji does play well on the tanks mechanically, but he is not prioritizing lane. He's building team fight items. He is dropping waves when appropriate. And he's been one of the smartest players for me in terms of the waves that he plays, the waves that he doesn't. And it has really opened up the strat book for CCG to funnel Cody-san on the bot side, who I think is going to be very important today for CCG if today does end up being a CCG victory.
It helps make the core foundation of CCG's game plan thrive so well. The fact that you have a rookie that is a tank specialist, can willingly sacrifice and understand when to make those sacrifices for the better of his team's overall game is so crucial to having someone like Dardoch, who is very much leading the charge as one of our most prolific junglers now for the remainder of this tournament. Going into playoffs at the end of regular season, I think it was a no-brainer that a lot of us considered Yuji as the #1 jungler in the regular season. Dardoch was number 2, at least on my list, and I think for a majority of people's lists as well, because Dardoch, probably this has been his best split overall in NACL. He's had a great last couple of years that he has played in NACL, even if they've been more quiet, but this split alone has been the most loud if we're gonna make that comparison compared to his previous splits.
Yeah, I feel like gameplay wise, like Dardoch, I don't think he's been doing anything all the more special this year versus others. I just think that some of the pieces around him are perceived as weaker. Therefore, there is more of a focus or emphasis on what Dardoch's actually doing on the Rift. And for me, going into the matchup for Conviction, this is the role where I know I was teasing Cody-san and how I think he's going to play a big part of what could be a CCG victory today. This is the one role where I can look at between these two teams on paper and say definitively that I favor jungle for CCG. What Dardoch has been doing this split, I think he's been pioneering some picks, like was very early to grab the Nasus of late, the Mundo as well. He's one of the few junglers that's still very willing to play Poppy, which is a very OP champion if picked in the right scenarios. And how he's playing a lot of these matchups, I think openers for me. I don't want to talk about jungle too much like chess at home, but I think a lot of the openers that he is choosing, given the games that are being played, just the 5 champions on your screen on each side, and then the jungle matchup as well, I think he's been very intelligent about what camps he's opening with, what invades he's deciding to go for, and where his first few plays are on the map. I think he's really set himself and the team up for success.
If he picks another Nasus game in this series, there is a specific opener he has done now twice on both of his Nasus games. Yep. He avoids the buffs because it takes way too long, but by focusing down the AoE camps, it's a lot easier for him to cycle those out. And the way he bounces between both of those, he still ends up on the strongest side of the map where he can get support, but he also denies any chance of invades of after like maybe a 3 camp from his enemy opponent, or even trying to deny certain respawn camp timers. It's just really, really intelligent the way he's crafted it around that specific champion, because it does require a lot more attention and a lot more setup to get going, because once you get to that mid game point where you are maxed out on Q, maxed out on your wither, that champion just does diabolical things to a lot of the champions that are strong in the metagame. But I think we have to also shift the conversation over to Tomio on the other side, because Tomio, because Conviction as a team were kind of struggling in the regular season, Tomio was having more of a quiet split, but he was still remaining very consistent and very strict in his gameplay, where he's not necessarily a super explosive early game jungler, but he understands that he has very strong timers, and he does his best to make sure he is delivering on those big wake ups, whether it's level 6, first item, Sundered Sky for a lot of those meta skirmishers, and he's able to find leads that allow Conviction to break from the tie in game state.
Yeah, I mean, your solo laners are Sniper Insanity. He's been playing facilitators and playing them well. So I feel like Tomio, at times within this team, doesn't get the credit that he might deserve, just because he's not the flashy player. But I do think that Tomio, a lot of what they've been setting up, it's Tomio the one that's really starting the plays and leading the beat of that drum. So I've been good to see from him. Definitely a similar role that we see with Kizno have with NRG. But I think that Tomio has executed that a little bit better, at least in playoffs, as they were the teams that found wins. But that's the jungle matchup. Definitely one to look out for on paper today. Do you want to talk about the ADs, who we really felt like were a pivotal route into making it into the playoffs, where both Tactical and Cody-san really stepped up within their roles in order to ensure that both teams ended up in the winners finals?
Yeah, and specifically Tactical. We had a big feature on Cody-san after his insane Kai'Sa performance against Winthrop University in particular. But for Tactical, this is a player that, once again, rejoining Tomio Insanity as part of that Luminosity core that was our back-to-back NACL champions for the 2025 season. He has been super consistent in just making sure that he is very stable, always having a good game state that Conviction can play around, can leverage into that mid-game playstyle, where Conviction not necessarily trying to do anything too flashy, too volatile in the first 10 minutes of the game if they can avoid it. Obviously, if they find a free advantage, they're going to take that, but they would rather make sure that they can play the game together as a team, because that was the core of what made Luminosity such a formidable opponent. Is they never gave you free advantages early on, and then by the time it came to mid-game, everything would look somewhat even, and then suddenly, boom, explosive team fight, very, very well executed, part of that core, and it's helping Conviction make a lot of these consistent wins that, had we looked at this team at the beginning of the regular season, where a lot of people were expecting this team to already be in top 3 contention, this is the team that we were imagining should have been playing like from the get-go.
Yeah, again, I really feel like Tactical, kind of a cheat code at this level. Whenever he's playing in tier 2, he's always been one of, if not the best AD that we have, and to have him step up with his team and some of his former teammates with Luminosity Gaming, been good to see, as I always enjoy seeing Tactical compete. And hey, him versus Cody-san, we have the war of Immortals AD carries, Rafa. We're gonna have to have decided, who made it the furthest. I mean, Cody-san did represent that team at Worlds. I remember, because I was a big Flame fan. Flame's one of my favorite players of all time. Yeah. And not a memorable Worlds performance, unfortunately. But for Tactical, I really feel like, since his time with TL, it's felt like Tactical has always kind of found himself slowly moving down the totem pole in terms of where he's viewed in terms of other ADs across the region. And a lot of that is consistency. Just not being able to be consistent enough in carrying through the leads that he oftentimes does get, because he's a very talented mechanical player, and turning those into victory. We did see a lot more consistency from Tactical this past year in Tier 2, and I think with him re-entering the scene, eye test, he's passing it, and we're still seeing a lot of that consistency. I feel like a couple of the games where he still sometimes suffers the same mistakes, but that's something that you look to temper. You don't want to take away aggression from a player, right? You want to look to temper it and have it at the right moments where it is appropriate, because he is very gifted mechanically and can carry a lot of those leads into victories if he's able to temper that well.
So far, it is leading into successful results in this playoffs run. Looking ahead, though, we are just a couple minutes away from draft being commenced here for our first game of our winners finals here in NACL spring playoffs. Want to make a couple shout outs here. I know that we are on patch 26.11 live. We are still for the remainder of the tournament on 26.10. So I know that I've been hyping up Quinn Jungle on Twitter. That's not happening.
Stop it. Get some help. Just we don't need to bring Quinn Jungle into the conversation for this patch. Hopefully, if not,
No.
I mean, well,
I
we'll
don't
see.
think so.
You'll be ready to talk about it. If so, you'll be ready to talk about it. Mhm.
Yeah. 26.11. Keep an eye out on tier 1 regions around the world, but yeah, that's going to be a different conversation. I will say, still strong talking points for 26.10 before it gets changed around. Enchanter supports are still going to be reigning supreme here on Summoner's Rift. They are getting a major nerf bat going into next patch, so this is still a time where any of our Nami enthusiasts or Karma enthusiasts, you can still select those champions. You are still going to be good. So primary engage is still going to be coming from jungle and top lane, which at least for CCG, thank goodness you've got a tank specialist up there.
I was about to say, if this went to 0.11, I think it would majorly nerf CCG, because a lot of their strategies have been built around playing an Enchantress bot and then taking advantage of the fact that when you have a tank top, Enchantresses give you more value between the heals and just having more resistances on a champion. So yeah, I'm really glad that we aren't playing on live patch. They made the change halfway through the tournament to make sure that we're staying on 10, and I feel like every team signed up for that one immediately, as this is a patch that, of course, you guys at home have been seeing the duration of the tournament and a lot of the regular seasons across the world. Excited to see it continue today as we're getting into our draft for game 1 here, Rafa. And early respect being put on Sniper's Jace.
Making sure that Conviction do not have that early on, which I guess some of the counter picks to Jace would be out of Fiji's realm if you were trying to go for something like the ranged marksman. But CCG trying to set up an early Lucian prio here. Now, there's not really many 80 carries that pop into my mind that think, oh yes, I would love to pick Milio and remove that from Lucian's grasp as a duo pair. But Conviction, thinking about trying of a quick hover on the Scion, that would be a nice takeaway from Fiji, but Conviction can answer with something like Caitlyn and then a strong laning support here. All right, Karma.
A lot of push showing early for Conviction. Not a combo that sets up Caitlyn for the traps, but is a combo that is a ton of push in that bot lane. So still expecting the Milio to come in, and frankly, I think that Fiji is just going to slam the Scion on 3. As denying Scion against Fiji, I feel like he has a lot of proficiency on this champion. I mean, this guy was playing in a Scion shirt on his player cam in past weeks, so...
okay.
Yes.
So I had a thought about this because the Breath of Life doesn't get that much value into Karma in particular, but having something like a Nami allows you to at least match sustain and have more healing power in this lane in particular. A little bit more aggressive for Lucian and being able to punch with the Tide's Blessing. And instead of going for an early top lane pick, they just slammed the Neferi here for Dardoch.
We've seen a lot of Neferi bans throughout playoffs, and Neferi hasn't really made an appearance. My theory is that, you know, a lot of the junglers want to play Pantheon Vi. Kind of interested to see Neferi make its way here. Dissuades maybe ranged top laners from Sniper too, just in case they want to get funky and you know, put a Varus up there. But
if Fiji has been practicing some Neferi top, that would be awesome. I'm not sure if that is the case.
Neferi's been an answer into Varus in particular, but this is going to be in the hands of Dardoch. So a lot of mid game, I think, showing Lucian Nami, a little bit of a stronger lane than the Lucian Milio. I will say I like your theory on why it's Nami, just because Kate Karma doesn't give you that Breath of Life value, but I think Lucian Nami is a much stronger, or Lucian Milio is a much stronger duo than Lucian Nami these days. And also kind of splits up that Corki Nami duo that teams have been really looking for later on. So that being said, also Karma Kate. This is a pairing that I think is very viable, but oftentimes we see Karma paired with Varus Jhin, and the most popular one being Ezreal. So something to look out for as some of the bot pairings that we have traditionally seen now split up the rest of the series.
Well, moving on forward with the draft, Insanity did lock into Cassiopeia into Lucian and Neferi. I like that angle so far. Cassiopeia has already risen to the top in a lot of our kind of control mage go-tos when it comes to blind picks. And the fact that Insanity wrote the book on the main counterpick into Cassio, which is Kog'Maw right now, he feels pretty confident that Aljun does not have the Kog'Maw sauce locked in, since they have only banned out champions like the Galio and the Scion to remove some of that frontline and engage power from CCG.
I think they might be looking at a Rumble, or maybe the Galio is just a ban to make sure that Nefiri Galio, pretty good combo when they can get on the Cassio and pick that Aojin's been willing to play, as CCG does need some tankiness, and Conviction for me needs some crowd control. So Cassio is like kind of a pseudo frontline, a lot of DPS just because she can be tankier with what she builds, but I'm looking for frontline for Conviction. And yeah, it's going to be found in the Sejuani. A lot of flexibility there, and does open up Sniper for stuff like Aurelia top potentially coming in.
Sure. It will be a little difficult trying to pin down some mobile targets like Nefiri and Lucian, so hopefully for Tomio, he can fire this Glacial Prison either into a crowd or at least from Fog of War to try and catch them off guard. It would be nice if you can try and layer it down on top of a Miasma to guarantee that they cannot escape from the grounded effect. CCG, what is your response into Conviction's composition so far? Just try to control the terrain with this Anivia locked in, and now all we need is an answer from Fiji in the top lane.
One of Eojin's most played for the split. Definitely gives you a lot of pressure on that Cassio early on, so interested to see if they can try and attack that, as Nefiri, a champion for me that really wants to farm up to 1 or 2 items. But Blind Gragas top, pretty malleable top laner there. Different builds available for Fiji, but I think it dissuades Renekton Aurelia coming in. Do think that I'm kind of expect to see an Aatrox here from Sniper, just given that it's comfort for him and a pretty positive matchup into the Gragas, even though he's playing around with the Fiora. Does end up on the Gnar, so not exactly the Sejuani Permafrost synergy that we're looking for, but again, just ability to try and follow up on the engages that we expect to see from Tomio, and kind of helps out with this early to mid-game spike that I feel like the Conviction top side's looking for. Whereas the Cassio and the Caitlyn later on, it might be able to carry things as the scaling of those champions very high throughout this game.
Solid wombo potential from this Mega Gnar into Miasma or Petrifying Gaze from Insanity in the works from Conviction, but I agree, most of this power from Conviction is trying to see if they can leverage this Caitlyn Karma push and try and get Insanity to a good spot where he and Caitlyn can scale as a solid backline. And while Gnar, not necessarily the most traditional front line, it is a safe laning phase. It is one where you should be able to find an advantage in terms of push because of the range advantage in mini Gnar form. I will say CCG, holistically or thematically as a composition, makes a lot of sense. I love the fact that you have something like a Gragas to split up targets and isolate it, so it's a lot easier for Lucian to pick his one-on-one battles, for Nefiri to pick her targets to completely isolate and run down with her Hound's Pursuit before looking for the reset. The Anivia maybe would not appreciate an explosive cast splitting people away from her Glacial Storm, but she can at least try and separate opponents further with that wall and try and follow up on those plays. But we'll see how it all unfolds as we head on to Summer's Rift for Game 1 of our Winners Finals.
We'll say hopping in. So the Gnar Gragas matchup is one we used to see a lot in League. And I think that part of it is it kind of pressures Fiji to go for an AP build. Because what Gragas is looking for in these scenarios is to find the all-in and the one-shot against Gnar. If you get tanky, Gnar is going to win out on that matchup, just given Hyper and what he's able to get. So I'm kind of tracking Fiji's build, because obviously Fiji traditionally wants to be that tank player. You have the option. You have a lot of different tier options with Gragas. I mean, I think both Seraphs and Fimbulwinter are valid, and then Roa we're used to seeing, but like historically for this matchup, I usually see one-shot Gragas into the Gnar, so definitely going to be tracking Fiji's build throughout the game, because I feel like the team does need something a little bit tankier, and that's the traditional role that Fiji fits. However, I don't know if they win a sustained fight later on against Cassio plus Caitlyn. We've seen Caitlyn's in NACL. I really have bias towards this champion right now. She feels so strong later on in games.
So you're advocating for more of like a Seraph's Cosmic Drive AP burst build from Gragas rather than just one that's more frontline. I can understand that because you just need to blow up this backline from CNV once it gets super late game. Speaking of being blown up, Aojun is taking a lot of pressure from Insanity, who has managed to land a lot of these noxious gases as well as the Twin Fangs to follow up on it. Level 1 and level 2 Cassiopeia, always a witch to deal with, to politely say, as we're going to head into a quick pause, and hopefully we can get out of it as soon as possible.
Cassio is so it's not bad for Aojun moving forward in that matchup. I don't know if Cassio can actually get that wave in, but let's see if we get any info on the pause as the start and stop. The F1 nightmare we have so far today, but do you think I'm kind of interested to see who wins this mid-game war? Because I feel like the Cassio and the Caitlyn have a little bit of a trough in the mid-game, as Cassio is going to scale up, the typical double stacking items, what we see. And Caitlyn's trough isn't as big as it used to be traditionally, but I think that champion is really happy before one item, and then pretty happy 3 items plus. And I think that Lucian hits mid-game really hard. The Fury, you want to get 2 items and fight for me. And Gragas kind of matches the Cassio, but I feel like the top side for Conviction kind of needs to bridge mid and 80 into this game.
2-item Nefiri definitely makes a lot of sense when it was the Bruiser style build with like Shojin Cleaver or even Eclipse Cleaver. Voltaic is a hell of a drug as a first item these days, and that has allowed Nefiri to kind of spike a little bit harder than she normally does. So that is going to be a point worthy of contention that's Conviction are going to have to respect, especially since that they're a team that they don't mind if this game goes late, whereas CCG, not sure if I feel necessarily the same amount of confidence as Cody's son takes a lot of damage. Ooh. Bounty and Tactical racking up the poke. Tomio also in the wings, but Dardoch is here to cover just in case they were thinking about looking for a dive.
Gonna get the bad news on the crab and actually turn his attention on the bounty, as Tomio might be looking for a double crab here.
I think he can definitely get it. Aojun already popped his egg, so if he gets a little too close for comfort, it would be his life on the line. But Tomio does suffer a bit of poke from Aojun on the way to that second crab. And Tomio decides, you know what? Maybe I have to take a safer route. Dardoch has an opportunity to try and ward him off, but he's got Sniper first on rotation. Dardoch cannot stay here for much longer. Has to give up space. And it should be double crab going under, but Dardoch and Aojun are really playing this line very intelligently. Back and forth. Patience.
They got him.
Blood gets onto Tomio. Quick trade over. Insanity gets the double buffs. At the end of the day, a little bit of extra gold into Dardoch, or I should say Aojun's pocket, but at least Insanity walks away with blue and red on his side.
Sniper's going to be down a bit of XP off of that, too. Insanity getting the blue buff means that he can stay in lane and keep on pushing around this Inidia, but that was a 2v3 from Dardoch and Aojun, where they kind of went out of the health bar and found a 1-for-1. Curious if it ends up having any other impact elsewhere in the matchup, but a little bit of chaos early on. And I did like the setup from Conviction. I feel like that double crab was there. Obviously, the answer not bad coming in from CCG, but I think that was a pretty good opener coming out from Tomio, as we were giving Dardoch a lot of kudos for the openers that he had in the series that we've seen from him in the playoffs so far.
Conviction definitely doing their homework, and like we said before from what Auto Boost was mentioning, in order for Dardoch to thrive, he does need setup. He does need his side lane states to be in a good spot to be able to drop their resources in order to make those happen. Sniper had the push. He was the first one there. Fiji was on base, had the TP, so they could not realistically play for that crab. The fact that they managed to make a 1-for-1 in a 2v3 is quite remarkable for CCG, and it could have been a lot worse.
It is a Dirk for Tactical. This is a little interesting. I've mostly seen the crit Caitlyn, and seeing the Dirk early on, that means Collector, and definitely maybe trying to take advantage of a squishier comp from CCG, which we were teasing, especially pending the build that Fiji ends up going. Is Fiji looking for Sniper? I think he's going to find it. Oh, he's Sniper flashed out of the queue. I think Fiji was hoping that he was going to get the queue down and get it to pop in that window. Bit of a miscalculation from him. I don't think he needed the flash there. I want to say he might have been predicting the fact that Sniper would have to flash out, which he did. But Sniper Lives gets to stay in the lane.
predicted the flash just a little too late on
it
when
was the
Sniper
wrong
was
flash
casting
predict.
the flash.
He thought Sniper would flash the E, whereas Sniper's smart there to eat that and then end up flashing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, results is the same, just not how we got there in terms of the process. Tomio trying to use his bot lane prio to rack up the first dragon at the 6-minute mark, and Permafrost on a neutral objective allows you to do that very quickly. So Tomio making great use of his Caitlyn and Karma lane pressure to get neutral objectives rolling and still have more than enough time to try and set up for grub contention against CCG as well.
Nice throw from Bounty and Tactical, and a potential look from Tomio. Only 35, is still hovering mid, and is on vision. I think Cody's son's dead here. Yep.
Oh my goodness! Cody's son barely lives with a sliver of HP, but he is not long for this world, and they want to give this kill over to Tactical, but they will force at least Tomio's hand to secure the kill.
Insanity forced out. So a little bit of a trade of power, but one that I think very much goes the Conviction way, as we did tease that this bot lane, the Kate Karma, overwhelming push between these two. And yeah, it's showing in the CS score and the fact that 3 plates have been taken down in that bot lane. So Cody's son at only 35 going to be playing from behind now, as Tactical very far ahead in this matchup now with the pickaxe coming in as well.
I'm not sure if it changes much, but I really appreciate the timing that Tomio threw out his ultimate synchronized with the Caitlyn ultimate, because I'm curious if Cody's son is paying attention to where the lane state is and not even looking to a Sejuani potentially being behind him in the line brush. I don't know if he is able to flash that Glacial Prison and that changes things, or if he's able to dodge it, but can appreciate that Conviction. We're trying to max out their optimization on that play, and it allows them to now have this solid 1,000 gold advantage just 10 seconds before the grub spawn, which Tomio not necessarily in position for, but neither is Dardoch. Both junglers trying to clear out their bottom side jungles first before making any moves to that side of the map.
I think that's, I mean, right now the concern for CCG for me is the fact that Insanity needed to be pushed back mid. And he is down a bit, but he's not down and out of this matchup whatsoever. Meanwhile, top and bot's kind of down and out of the matchup. And Sniper has a lead for Fiji that's a little bit bigger than what I would expect in Gnar versus Gragas, whereas I do expect Gnar to have a bit of a lead. And it does look like Fiji's going for that double stacking build where it's going to be Roa into Seraphs or Fimbulwinter. So I think that CCG, for me, kind of in the hole early on, which concerns me because, again, I feel like this needs to be a mid-game comp with Lucian, Nami, and Nefiri, and then kind of having Gragas and Anivia able to control and make plays around that. And a lot of the elements for me of what needs to happen in that mid-game comp, it's the Lucian. Lucian's behind is no body slam on Fiji. That got canceled. We'll force out the cask.
Traded ultimates here in the top lane, and Sniper definitely winning out on the CS war, already netting himself a solid half K gold advantage between the 20-something CS lead as well as the assist that he got participating in that topside river. Meanwhile, Battle for Grubs goes down. Dardoch was able to smite the first one. Tomio throws out the Glacial Prison, tries to see if he can keep Dardoch away from these, manages to pick up one for himself. And the fear of any collapsing members from Conviction forces Dardoch out of the pit, allowing Conviction to secure 2 grubs total.
I kind of thought Dardoch could stick around there a little bit longer and see if he can get that last grub. Tomio, with that early harness off the kill and assist that he has, was a little bit too big. Tactical is going to eat the tidal wave. Good calling.
Barrier forced out, and the flash. Bounty forced to flash as well off the incoming bubble from Only 35's Nami there. CCG, despite the early advantage from this Caitlyn Karma, are holding their ground.
Much needed Dardoch sprint bot now. I think that having an Ethereal ult come in, we're going to have Tactical and Bounty reset, but that can be a point of strength now for CCG. The fact they got both flashes out of the bot lane of Conviction. Bounty going to be a little bit greedy here, hold the wave. He's going to get away with it. CCG takes their own reset. But yeah, I think attacking bot with Dardoch, that's not a 3v3 where I feel like if Tomio shows up is winnable for CCG. But if Tomio shows anywhere else, I think that the bot lane of Conviction can be punished. And Tomio right now going towards his topside camp. So I think Dardoch needs a base, but Wouldn't be surprised if he sprints bot. That being said, CCG going for one of their patented swaps. Only issue is that Grubs are already down. So we'll see if Fiji can maybe find Sniper here on a fish.
Ooh, body slam
cancel.
interrupts the hop. Excellent work by Fiji to set this up for Cody's son as he gets his first kill in the game.
That was textbook from CCG, and this is what they do really well in the early stages of the game. And man, Fiji just kind of mind gaming Sniper there, leading with the ult, holding the body slam, and so he sees the hop from Gnar. Very well played by Fiji, as it does get them something. That said, bot lane already went the way of Conviction, as I feel like in hindsight, for me, this is more of a swap to get Cody's son into a better scenario because bot lane wasn't going well, and it might continue.
You can lead with Dardoch here, but Tomio's matching the dive, but Dardoch drops the turret aggro using the call of the pack. Textbook Nefiri dive here, and unfortunately, Tomio's presence does not change it. He still has Glacial Prison. Aojun was not taking the turret aggro. Tomio just tries to stall for time, but he is still a squishy piggy, and Dardoch manages to pick up another alongside Aojun. Now 2 kills on this Anivia.
Great swap from CCG. I think that was much needed because, again, the lanes were going the way of Conviction with the Gnar and the Caitlyn and the Karma. So CCG finding the swap, finding 2 positive plays for themselves as that's an egg popped. Insanity's coming. I do think Aojun can sneak out of here still, but we'll see. That root's going to be scary. Never mind.
But the tether
He's dead.
into the miasma, nothing that Aojun can do. Great punish coming in from Conviction. Tactical gets paid.
Okay, nice answer from Conviction, but still do really like the swap from CCG. I think that in the game state the game was in, if it just continued to play out in the standard lanes, Conviction's just going to keep on winning and winning harder. In fact, they were able to find that swap, punish Sniper twice on the top side. It does give CCG something to play off of, as you called it out nicely, Rafa. The call of the pack from Dardoch to drop the aggro, really nice. And they don't even touch Tomio, so it resets the tower heat, which I think is very key, and what some teams botch when continuing the dive is that they'll let that heat ramp up and then not have it reset. They fully reset the heat on the tower that enabled them to cleanly dive Tomio afterwards as they got a double win on the top side.
Yep. Back-to-back deaths on Sniper puts him a little behind the curve, allowing Fiji to catch up and acquire his Rod of Ages to get that stacking. Just a couple minutes behind Aojun's own Rod of Ages, but for Conviction, they're still playing their neutral objective game, managing to secure the second dragon. And this is going to be an Ocean Soul map. Not sure if this is the best soul that Conviction would have hoped for, or if it doesn't really change in the grand scheme of things of what CCG wants to do for the remainder of the game.
It kind of helps them match some of the sustain of CCG, but that's not a good draw. You aren't looking for Ocean, I think, anytime if you have 2 dragons. So, I think at the moment for CCG, once Fiji gets the double evolve, we'll see if it ends up being the Seraphs or the Fimbulwinter that comes in. But Aojun's going to go for the Malignance build, because then whenever you drop the ult, it shreds some MR, and they can use the Lucian and Nami passive as well as the Gragas to hopefully help out with that. I think that's going to be the big spike in the mid game here for CCG, and for me, they need to hit that one hard. I do think if this game gets to 3-4 items on Caitlyn, I get very scared for the state of the game that CCG is in. Is good find. TP coming in.
Aojun thought he was safe because he had Dardoch behind him, but Tomio just makes the play super fast and relying on Insanity's burst damage to knock him down, knowing that no flash from the prior catch on top side. That egg was a sitting duck.
Dardoch not able to get through the ground and answer, as TP from Fiji does get him the wave, but does enable Conviction to play 3 waves for themselves. So Conviction going to be winning out on this sequence. Rift Herald is up. Aojun going to need to go clean up the bot wave from Sniper. Will have TP to try and play the Herald. As curious if we end up having a look, because again, Cody-san on this Lucian, decently strong at this point, and with Tactical being where he's at, I'm scared for the Infinity Edge second. If I'm CCG, I would really like to fight before that one comes in. Tactical Idiot, heavily peppered. Well played. Not able to net sideways in that scenario. Cody-san kept the dash, so would be able to follow that one too. Got a max culling. That might open up this Herald, and I think that's it.
Yep. Tomio tries to walk in first, but Without Tactical being healthy enough to contest alongside the rest of the team, Rift Herald is secured for CCG. Next Dragon coming up in 2 minutes and 45 seconds, so there's plenty of time to try and set up for that objective. But like you said, not the best draw, so not sure if it's necessarily one that CCG are going to be putting a lot of resources into contesting. Fiji, however, might have to get out of this one. Explosive Cask into the flash, gives him enough distance so that Conviction cannot lock him down.
That's one where I would almost rather throw the Cask and Insanity. I know you can flash under it and then be knocked forward, but Insanity has the damage. Sejuani can't take you down as the Gragas. So I think that both Sums being forced out, pretty cautious there from Fiji, but again, Conviction going to get more into side lane. Couple show top though, so Dardoch going to get in, at least take the Krugs away and pressure Sniper, but they can't push him off anything significant outside the waves. So a little bit of a trade of power, but one that I think doesn't really have a game impact. In fact, Fiji Flash is bad. I want to amend my Malignance build. We have seen Aeojin go that quite a bit. Actually, going for something else. He's just sitting on an extra mana crystal.
Maybe.
That doesn't make sense for me. I think Beyond Reason make more sense. It is a pretty big top side. So I think we just have a bonus mana crystal.
Okay, yep.
Yep.
I think it was a change of heart as he was building towards whatever the second item was and deciding, yeah, you know what? That's a lot of HP on their team. I should go Leandries.
Yeah, I mean, really heavy HP topside, so definitely going to get some value here. But again, CCG, this is the point of the game for me where it's an IE on Caitlyn. I'm scared of that, but I think the Cassio and the Caitlyn really only get scarier from here. So utilizing Lucian mid-game, I'm looking to see if CCG can pressure, and that Dardoch having his first item as well, Rafa. You highlighted some of the bonus strength that comes out of the Fury, and why we've seen more Nefiri bans with this new build being available on this patch.
Yeah.
I think this is the time for Dardoch to cash in on that.
Uh-oh.
Fiji's dead.
Fiji overextended, trying to look for a turret. At least secures it, but he is definitely going down. Sniper used the TP to make sure that this 3v1 was going to guarantee the kill without any trades coming back. Rift Herald being dropped in the mid lane as Cody Sun opens up with that culling, trying to get a decent chunk, but Bounty covers a majority of the damage. So the tactical remains pretty healthy. That turret does not fall yet, but just needs a couple more auto attacks before it goes down.
All of Conviction's here to defend, though, so see if CCG overextends. That said, Aeojin is going to clean up the bot outer. So, turrets at the moment in favor of CCG off some of the moves we've seen them make. I think the return has been Sniper pretty far up in terms of side lane farm, and I don't think that CCG is going to be able to contest this Dragon, given that Fiji's still down. Tools were used both mid and kind of bot to make sure that they can pressure the double outer.
Fiji just TP'd mid. I mean, he gets back on the map. 3,000 HP, Dardoch and Tomio both have upgraded 1,400 smites. No culling available
big,
as you
no
called
cask.
out.
Yeah.
Tidal Wave available from only 35. Tries to get close enough, but Dardoch caught in the miasma, tries to walk away and uses the call of the pack early. Explosive Cast punts a lot of members from Conviction, prevents them from forcing an engage on a CCG. And it seems like they were just trying to fish for something out of Conviction to see if they would panic, but Conviction remains stoic in the onslaught and in the presence of a potential fight. And Conviction just walk away with their third dragon.
They did get 2 flashes, so that's a positive. As Bounty had the flash over that cask, or else he would have been knocked into the team and likely dead. So, like that angle from Fiji. And again, I wasn't sure if CCG could contest just given the setup. I still think this is where their comp somewhat spikes. And honestly, a scenario for them where they want Gragas and Anivia, give them those opportunities to fish, to see if they can find picks and catch people out. I think the fact that they were not able to set up for that dragon, given that Fiji was down, was big. Prevents some of the control that this comp does excel at in those scenarios. But at least in the post play, they got some flashes they can look to punish in between dragon spawns.
Yeah. There's a lot of gold that CCG had picked up prior to the dragon, so I can understand trying to max out those second item builds coming into it. They had a lot of confidence in trying to force something there, but you really do need isolated targets for this Nefiri and Lucian to try and pick apart their targets. And unfortunately, the explosive cast kind of grouped them together. In Alju's case, that would have been nice, but he was not in range, nor could he walk up safely to threaten that. So Conviction now, with 3 dragons on their side, 3 minutes away from potentially Ocean Soul in their grasp. And now, as Conviction continues scaling on up, the front line for this squad is going to get a lot beefier and a lot harder for CCG to try and burst down.
Tell me a look.
Glacial Prison onto Dardoch. Call the pack into the Eviscerate over the wall, allows him to escape danger. So it's just one ultimate use from Conviction's side, and that's their main engage tool. Wonder if CCG can find a re-engage.
Caitlyn usually likes to siege, but I think it's so difficult to siege into Anivia and Gragas, just because when you're grouped up like this is a scenario that I think CCG can definitely look. As Fiji with these casks, that displacement can set up really nicely for Nami, Nefiri, and Anivia to attack as well, which you were kind of highlighting in the draft, Rafa. Kind of weird push for me from Conviction, especially that Glacial Prison coming down on the Dardoch. So I think Sniper opening up the map in the side lanes, again, makes a bit of sense for me. And it's one where I really feel like Sniper's going to have to get side lane priority and then be able to hopefully help snowball that into angles so they can break the control of CCG or just have more of an economy coming into the CCG comp.
I'm not sure if CCG would rather play these 5-on-5s or if they just want to try and look for picks and overload on side lanes. Because in my head, if I'm Dardoch, I just want to look for isolated targets. And that's a lot harder to do in 5v5s, even with the theory of this explosive cast, this tidal wave of being able to break opponents apart.
I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Rafa. It is on the cast to split them up and to find what they need. Because they can't fight Cassio, Caitlyn straight up walking into them. So, but if you have a good cask and you are able to split people up, I think the ability to find picks and bursts is definitely there for CCGs. So, in terms of the setup, this next dragon coming up, of course, it is a Soul. Ocean Soul not going to be one of the strongest, but Soul nonetheless. So, I think CCG a little bit more pressure on them to contest this dragon. But curious if they are able to find the right setup. And I have Fiji, who did have a really nice angle in that last fight that did force the flash out of Bounty with that cask. We'll see if Fiji can find another look like that and try and punish. Of course, those flashes are back up. Bounty already has it, as I'm sure that he has the Summoner Spell or Cosmic Insight and the Rune Tree Sniper. Still getting that flash back up from the post-Dragon play. So his won't be available at this spawn. As Conviction, again, kind of realizing that Ocean Soul, not the same priority as some of the others. Threatening the Baron a little bit more, which is very fast with the Cassiopeia on the team.
And I think that's a good call from Conviction as a Glacial Prison opens up onto Fiji, tries to take it up as much as possible, only chunked to a quarter of his HP. Insanity now in trouble. Cody's son dashes forward. Dardoch sinks his fangs with the Hound's Pursuit and is ready to bark and howl all over the opposition. Tomio able to interrupt the second reset. Crucial that CCG do not get any more kills onto their back line. But Conviction losing out on Insanity means that CCG now have their chance to secure this Ocean Soul.
That was kind of a fun combo from the cask into Dardoch, chasing Insanity all the way to the back of the fight where he found them. They got Tactical's flash out as well. And Bounty's flash out too from the pick as Conviction trying to get to the Dragon. They are spotted by a Control Ward. They're going to call the play there. Good sequence from CCG. And again, finding those splits, that initial engage on the Fiji, the Gragas, with the help of the Nami, was tanky enough. They stopped Insanity in his tracks, and that Cassio then being range-gated for the rest of the fight. The cask coming in with Dardoch over the top did find the first fight win we see really for CCG since the dive.
I love watching this team figure out combos that other teams not necessarily have kind of put together yet, because that was definitely not on my mind when I think about, obviously, Explosive Cask splits up an isolated target, but doing it in the middle of the Hound's Pursuit where you are, as soon as you see a Nefiri, soon as you see a Nefiri ulting on top of a squishy carry, everyone wants to naturally group up on top of you. Because if you see an Explosive Cask in the air, you are naturally going to try and split apart and make sure you're not caught in it. But you get more value basically baiting out the group up from Conviction doing that way. And Dardoch, also a man after my own heart with the Serpent's Fang purchase here. There's a Karma on the enemy team. There's a Barrier on Caitlyn. You need the Shield Breaker as well. So this Nefiri already getting a lot of value this game.
Yeah, that for sure was going to be a Serpents coming in on the Fury against the Karma in the draft. So this is kind of a close game, and frankly, I think there's more pressure on Tomio to really find these sound engages, because the engage tools for Conviction, honestly, not really there outside the Glacial Prison. Of course, Sniper, Meganar is conditional, and I think the ability for Gragas to hold the line, or some of the difficulties even just engaging onto Anivia here. I'm kind of keeping my eyes on Tomio on this Glacial Prison, because I feel like if these don't connect or aren't clean, I mean, that was one where Fiji was taking all the Cassio damage in the world, but it just straight up did not matter. Thanks to the Gragas W buff he got on this patch. I think working overtime there as he got more damage reduction when he hit W, and Fiji taking full advantage of that.
I'm actually curious, now that you mention it, if there is reason to... Because you get more damage reduction per point put into W. So I almost wonder if there's value in maxing W second versus last.
Some matchups top, not the NAR one, but some matchups top, I would not be surprised if some people go for that. As Ocean actually is going to find Insanity.
Oh no,
he's
Insanity's
flashless.
done. He's cooked.
He's flashless.
And the rest of the team from CCG is on their way. Insanity, all he can do is just try and stall this one out as long as possible while Sniper's pushing on the bottom side of the map. Petrifying Gaze finds a couple members here, but a quick cleanse with the Mikhails from Cody's son allows him to just get out of any burst damage from Insanity. Quick pick onto Insanity's Cassiopeia, and all Conviction can get is a mid-turn in mid lane, but CCG now trying to burn down this Baron as fast as possible.
Fiji burned his cask on the wave. Conviction were still able to kill that. They got the mid-outer turret. Sniper TP's in. This is a great scenario for CCG. Again, they're looking to play for control. I think they have options about turning or burning.
Turn on to Tomio, annihilate the jungler first, prevent the smite 50-50 from getting out. Glacial Prison goes wide, Dardoch dodges it, 4,000 HP.
Sniper's
Tomio
mega.
is still a factor. Sniper goes in, massive mega north from Sniper into the pit, 1,800, who gets it? It's still CCG that secures the Baron, but everyone is falling to the wayside as Convictions trying to pick apart them like vultures. The egg passive will go off only to delay the inevitable. Conviction lose out on the Baron, but it's a massive wipe in the river.
They were missing tools to keep Sniper out of the pit, and the Meganar fully cashed in as that was a giant ultimate in the back. Pretty much make sure this game doesn't get out of control for Conviction, as it's a negative Baron power play off the rip, and Sniper clutching, making sure that he connected on a big engage, freed up in tactical to free fire in the rest of the fight. And Conviction at least able to ensure that Baron buff only escapes on the Fiji.
Not the best scenario and outcome for CCG after securing the Baron there. Numbers advantage was on their side. The way that they tried to bait out Tomio's cooldowns first, but they forgot about Sniper. And now 34 seconds ahead of this Ocean Dragon spawning. It's another chance for Conviction to try and secure Ocean Soul. And this time around, they have the setup in the river. There's not nearly the amount of ward coverage that CCG had littering that bottom side of the quadrant. It is completely dark in the eyes of CCG.
They did see Sniper pop Mega, though. That's right before the Dragon. So I think they're going to use Gragas to scout out here. And they got to play this one fast after the Mega expires. If not, I don't really know how they can play this if Sniper's able to build this one back up. Trap line down. Dardoch still not spotted. And see what kind of inroads they can make. As again, I still feel like these casks coming out can be deadly. We've seen them be very good just to try and set up picks or set up Dardoch to have the right fight.
Conviction is getting pushed back behind the pit line. Couple are sitting in this
They don't see Sniper. Sniper's almost Mega again. He's going to build that one back up. Yep.
They have to burst it out. Tomio goes for the Glacial Prison, sends up Dardoch, and Tomio secures the Ocean Soul. Sniper about to go Mega. Dardoch flashes the initial Gnar ultimate, but cannot sidestep or dodge the ace in the hole. Rest of Conviction now trying to run down any stragglers from CCG. They pick up the minion wave. Sniper doesn't hit the boulder toss, but Insanity is hunting for more. And the rest of Conviction push out CCG away from the priority of this mid lane wave, and now they have a chance to look for a counter push.
I think this outer is going to fall, and again, Conviction, the Ocean Soul for them just means they get to match some of the sustain of the Gragas, the Nami, and the team the CCG has. So Conviction, I think we've hit the point now where it's 4 items on Tactical. We're really feeling the might of this Caitlyn and what you can do in the later stages.
CCG trying to step up and bait out any spells from Conviction, but even though Ocean Soul might not be the best draw, you can see a little bit of the effect taking place whenever they get a chance to trade damage there.
We got resets coming in, Rafa. Let's take another look at Sniper and that combo and what is likely to be our Philips Norelco precision play. As again, that fight from Sniper, that was a game-saving Mega Gnar in the top side, just to make sure that CCG couldn't get that Baron, couldn't knock down any inners. As really, I mean, this was a game where I think a lot of the lead for CCG was actually opened up by focusing and punishing Sniper with that swap into him TPing, which was errant and goes to a second death. Sniper coming up big in that fight. That kind of made up for some of the errors of his ways in terms of making sure that Conviction was on top of the ball, punishing the fact that CCG tried to take that Baron in the 5v4 and go from there.
Yeah. Tomio lurking around the wings, looking for Cody-san. Oh, he was trying to predict a flash out of Cody-san, but stays cool and just dashes simply to the other side.
Kind of curious, like, problem-solving wise for CCG, what they can do now. Because I think Caitlyn's so hard to break at this point. So I know, Tomio, we were talking about him finding engages kind of in the mid-game. Engage tools aren't, you know, not plentiful for Conviction. More emphasis on him to make sure that those engages are sound. Sniper sized up the queue. He might have been able to take that play, but he didn't have enough information on the rest of CCG to actually try and all in that Anivia is. All right, here we go. Philips Norelco precision play. Check this out on Sniper once again. Hitting Mega, got stunned up there, but great combo. Gets the flip on the Mega Gnar Evolve. Finds the giant Mega Gnar in the background, and Aojun was Zoom. So this Anivia couldn't really do much. And in the rest of the fight, I think that was another critical one. The fact that I didn't see a blue buff on the bird, and the bird ends up running out of mana pretty quickly. You don't have that tool available in the mid game.
So awesome for Sniper to make that play on this Gnar, a champion that during his time in LCS, a lot of criticism was levied towards his way about not being able to pilot that champion or put enough time into that champion. Well, he's definitely put in the reps and the work ever since then to make sure that he can come up big on those moments when he needs to, as Conviction now benefiting from a 3,000 to 4,000 gold advantage off of what was the most clutch play of this first game of the series.
Five-man group against Sniper. Gets to play that side lane, trying to split best he can. He does have a very, very big gold lead against Fiji, who, again, grouped up, trying to execute this comp. I think CCG have forced to drop a few more sideways than they want. They did find Insanity here. That's big.
Insanity's caught. He's got Zonia's to buy some time here. Tomio tries to step up to block the damage, but Dardoch doesn't care. He just sinks another bite and a crunch into the back of that snake lady. Tomio falls next, and now it's the Baron roundabout. Second time. Can Conviction pull out another miracle?
I mean, who cares if Sniper takes an inner? If you can find picks like that, open up the Baron. This one, I don't think Conviction can play. Sniper's going to have Mega again, but CG got to be ready for this one.
Oh, they're turning right on the Sniper. He tries to flash and predict the Gnar ultimate into Cody-san, but they don't care. They immediately cleanse it. They force him out. This time, CCG are well more than enough prepared. They secure the Baron, and all 5 members escape.
And that headshot on Tactical took like 2/3 of Cody-san's health still. With the Baron debuff, but yeah, no smite, not enough tools, and a great pick and find. I mean, this is part of why we're seeing Fiji group and drop this many waves, because again, one misstep, one step out of line from Conviction, and the tools that can come down from CCG, from the displacement of the cask into the combos from the rest of the comp, really well executed by them. Gets more gold into the pockets of Cody-san. I'm still scared about the Caitlyn. I feel like Tactical was ignored in that fight because they were able to catch Insanity and Tomio wasn't able to get his Cassiopeia out. I do think that these future catches have to come down on the 80 carry of Conviction. If not, Tactical is going to run rampant in these fights with how big the Caitlyn is right now.
If Conviction can set up proper battle lines, this Caitlyn and Cassiopeia will still be too much to deal with for CCG, but this game has been already a demonstration of how both of these teams can make comeback plays when it comes to the late game. And they've definitely excelled when it comes to other teams being able to match them in macro.
Really
nice wall, cuts off Sniper, gets caught in the bubble. Glacial Prison tries to stall it, but a nice explosive cast punts him. Big shutdown goes into Dardock's grasp. Only 35, traded by Insanity. 4-on-4 now. CCG trying to look for another one. Great interrupt by Tomio. Interrupts the Hound's pursuit and saves Tactical's life from certain danger. Looks for the ace in the hole. Dardock is the one that blocks it, allowing Aljun to survive. But now Elder is on the line.
Sniper has TP. I think CCG has to play
Tomio
this quick.
Good
Kale's
cleanse.
out. Tactical behind the wall, but is able to sneak out. Aljun's quite low. They got him!
Fiji body slam flash! And Tactical is slain where he stand! Shut down by Cody's son! Still 4-on-3 in favor of CCG, but Tomio is still alive, and he has something to say about that if he can get into the pit. But CCG's being extremely patient. They are not putting the Elder Dragon close to smite range. They're constantly pulling Tomio in.
Sniper's almost up. Sniper's almost up.
Insanity are trying to look for a different angle. They're trying
Where's
to approach
the
from the right
TP?
side. They forgot about it. They forgot about Insanity. Petrifying gaze from Bo5. Dardock is about to go down. Insanity burns him. Tomio has the smite advantage. 900. Elder secured for Conviction. And Sniper is back from the grave, ready to exact his revenge. Triple kill from Insanity as he arrives in playoffs form all the same at the end of game 1.
That's going to be the game. I think Ocean Soul ended up working overtime in the end as it kept Conviction topped off, helped Insanity find the flank, and that petrifying gaze, it turned CCG to stone in this game 1.
What a bonkers game 1 to start off our winners finals. A back and forth fight. Knockout punch after knockout punch. But it doesn't matter how many times you get hit. It's about how many times you can get back up. And Conviction are the victorious ones in our first game of winners finals.
I really like some of the looks and angles that we saw from CCG. I think the economy from Conviction, and again, having that tanky topside with the Ocean Souls, it helped them. Because CCG did a good job playing from behind and finding their way back into that game, given some of the tools that they had. The casks from Fiji were lethal. You could see Aojun finding the picks that he needed on this Anivia. But at the end of the day, it's lost track of Insanity once, Ocean Soul working overtime in a couple of these extended plays. Ended up making a really big difference in this one as they took a step back, reset, and Insanity finds the hero play at the end to win the team fight, get the Elder on his squad, and get Conviction that game 1.
All I can say, Cubby, is inject 4 more games of this into my veins. Please keep the full 5-game series train coming, as we are going to take a short break. When we come back, game 2 between Conviction and CCG going to be on your screen. The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco OneBlade.
Trim. Edge. Shave.
Trim, edge, and shave with Philips Norelco OneBlade. One tool for all you need.
Philips Norelco OneBlade presents Shave All Things. Your style made simple with Philips Norelco OneBlade 360.
Trim, edge, and shave with Philips Norelco One Blade. One tool for all you need.
Philips Norelco One Blade presents Shave All Things. Your style made simple with Philips Norelco One Blade 360.
The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco One Blade. Welcome back, y'all. We are getting ready for game numero dos between Conviction and CCG. And if we get more bangers like that first game, I mean, we're going to have a wonderful Friday here on the NACL broadcast. It's still Rafa, it's still Cubby, and trying to break down what happened in that game one was definitely a clash of styles that we have seen both of these two teams really polish up in their run in the upper bracket here for playoffs. But once again, Conviction, their resiliency is able to trump that of CCG's when it came to the most insane elder fight I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I lost track of insanity as well. That petrifying gaze was huge, but I think a lot of the trends that we expected to see in this series came to fruition in game one. Stuff like top lane economy, like Fiji dropping more waves to help the team, or the early swaps from CCG. That's what really got them into that game. Or even what Coach Autoboost was talking about in our pre-show interview with him, just having the fact that there is a lot of individual might on Conviction, and we did see them utilize that to get ahead in lanes. They needed that swap, CCG did, in order to actually get into the game. I think the concerning part for me with Conviction is that they fell prey to a lot of the picks that CCG had. It was their economy in the end that actually got them the win. I think they gave CCG a lot more angles than what Conviction would have liked to give them as that game moved forward. So really competitive back and forth game one. I think we did see each team kind of execute their style, or again, play in a way that we were kind of expecting to see from trends that we've seen throughout the season. So excited to see if that continues, or if we get a break of that, as of course with Fearless, always have to be flexible and malleable as we go throughout a best-of-5 series.
Yep, and we are already underway with our second draft of the series. A lot
same
of
bands.
Similar bands. Yep,
Outside Gwen.
Same bands from game one. Gwen, though, anticipating potentially a Cassante first pick coming in from Fiji going into this, or at least some kind of strong tank. But with the Varus lock-in, that denies the Varus top from Sniper, as well as what could have been a nice pickup for Tactical. Rise Slam for Insanity.
I think they want Scion. I think that's what we're going to see here. I think that's why we got the Gwen first rotation band. I'm not exactly sure which band CCG dropped for Gwen. I will be honest. Didn't take a screenshot of that game one, but I am fully expecting Scion on 3 or 2 or 3 here, as will be a Nautilus coming in for only 35 into the Nico. Gotta say, not used to seeing this one. A little bit of lane strength. I feel like Nautilus in particular actually can give Ryze a few headaches, given that you can buffer the root, and also Ryze kind of vulnerable to the knockup and that hook in the front line, as Ryze does want to play up. But given Gwen first rotation ban, yep, there it is. Again, Fiji guys, Scion aficionado. I don't think any other top laner in the league I've seen wear a t-shirt of their favorite champion the way that Fiji has. So he is really good in this pick. He knows all the matchup, like a lot of the matchups, or all the matchups. We saw him run Bramble Vest Rush Airy into Vayne and go even in CS in a game earlier this regular season. It is a lot of creativity with some of his Rune and Keystone setups to get the most out of this champion, a champion he's very comfortable on.
Sivir. It's a nice response into Nautilus. At least you can spell shield the def charge. However, if Nautilus ever gets on top of you, he's still got plenty of crowd control options that can eat that up. So
I'm kind of surprised to see that, because Scion is such a big meatball that, yeah, you can have bouncing blades that deal with you can bounce them off the tank, but I think Sivir really struggles until very late stages of the game to actually stand in front of a Scion. And with a Scion, you still have the option as Cody's son to actually go for on-hit Varus. And on-hit Varus, for me, kind of murks Sivir. Sivir can cheat the matchup with the wave, but in a raw DPS stat check, I'm going to favor the on-hit Varus that ends up being the choice for Cody's son. And I think he has that option with both Nautilus and Scion, even though it's rare. So I think that the Nico definitely dissuades it. Playing poke Varus against Nico is quite nice, trying to play back and outside that range. But for me, the Sivir is a little bit of a risky selection here from Tactical.
You can at least see that Conviction are trying to deny further long-range options from CCG's potential mid lane selection with the Azir pickup on that ban list. Thinking about another ban if you want to go down the route of mid lane long-range champions. Talia was not on my bingo card there, but it does make sense. At least you can combo that with Nautilus ultimate, and if you can get a nice knockup going from this Scion as well. Hell, there's still things like the Pantheon and the Xin Zhao available that could have been paired along with the Talia, but that is going to push Aljun down some picks in terms of what he would like into this Rise matchup. Conviction have to... It looks like they're trying to save counter pick for Tomio, but this Mbessa could be flexed to either top or jungle.
We haven't really seen it jungle after some of the Mbessa changes, so I'm going to expect for this to be into the Scion and give Tomio kind of a rare R5 pick for him. But Mbessa, I mean, again, you get to the later stage of the game as Mbessa, you do so much damage. In the Scion lane, you are able to get there. So, see if Sniper's able to continue to show good performances on Mbessa. Definitely a champion I feel like he's shown some proficiency on. Meanwhile, for mid-jungle, we'll see. Do we have a sneaky Nasus game coming in here? Wither against Sivir is... it's doable if you want it.
Okay. When we talk about long range, forgot about Hui, but Hui, definitely nice to be able to pair on top of some long range point and click guarantees from Nautilus. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. If you blind Nasus and then Tomio slams Lee Sin, you are terrified for your life. So I don't think you can go down that route.
I think it's Xin Zhao for me.
Yeah, I think Dardoch has to go something that can fight a little bit early. Oh, why not just slam the Lee Sin yourself?
Okay.
I'm a fan of that.
Man, I don't know if we've seen Dardoch Lee Sin so far this year, and we have not. And he used to really be known for this pick. So let's see what Tomio wants.
When he was first coming, when he was first coming up, there's a clip where Scar was still streaming League back in the day, and he found Dardoch was playing on some amateur team called Imagine, I think, and he just found this insane Lee Sin play, and I just remember Scar's reaction being, "Holy, what did I just see?" An Olaf lock-in.
This could
either go jungle or top.
This is flexible. Olaf kind of here to try and stat check the top side. I think that really... Is this going to be on hit Varus? That's kind of a question that I have. As I feel like there is, again, some credence for it. Poke Varus doesn't really have a big impact on this game for me. So I'm wondering if it ends up being Cody's son going on hit, or if we get some sort of the hodgepodge build that we saw at EDG Leave in the play-in where he went, where it was like tier into static shiv into like a hybrid build. That was really weird from Varus. But I feel like you have options. Overall, Dardoch will have the ability to try and find some early looks. I know Olaf's clear can be quite strong, and frankly is an old-school Tomio special pick. So kind of fun to see both of our junglers in Game 2 pull out champions that they were known for in the past that we have not seen from them so far in this split.
If I'm not mistaken, there was some... Actually, never mind. It's been a hot minute since Olaf has been in the patch notes, but it's one of those jungle changes that, like, a couple years ago, he got a decent amount of bonus monster damage increased on his Undertow, as Riot was trying to encourage more Viking in the jungle gameplay. Didn't necessarily result in sweeping Olaf appearances, but we're going to find out how well they can pilot it as we head to Summoner's Rift for Game 2 of our Winners Finals.
Okay, it is going to be on hit Varus. Again, that's where my eye went first. It's a lethal tempo, and we're going to have to see if Cody's son can utilize the space that Scion, Nautilus, and even Hui Lee Sin can give in order to make something happen. As Tomio not going to be starting on the Raptor camp. Olaf does clear very quickly. He's going to be starting on the blue buff, and again, strategic for Olaf to go as low as possible with the jungle. Can't multi-pull camps as much anymore, which a lot of the junglers used to do way back when Olaf jungle was really popular. But
Yeah.
we'll see if he's able to actually match the Might of Lee Sin, because Dardoch looks like he's going for... Oh, okay, actually, he skipped over the red buff. I was going to set up the 3-camp base in a longsword, but Dardoch is going to try and take his AoE camps and maybe a race to bot lane.
Was expecting a potential Lee Sin setup for Tomio on that R5 before Dardoch sniped it away, because Ryze Lee Sin has been such a consistent combo. Empowered Rune Prison guarantees that Lee Sin has the full combo there. But he might try and swing mid if he feels Aljun has a way to set that up onto Insanity. Would be a lot harder because you have to guarantee either that Maw connecting or the Fear. Both are skill shots, not necessarily the most consistent. So Dardoch is just going to look for a full clear instead. Maybe finds a way to attack bot lane with the power of this Nautilus to set him up.
Priority early on in the Sivir Nico's hands, given that Bounty playing that ranged champion in the bot lane. Able to pepper. Nautilus still has a pretty good lane phase, given that you can put a couple points in the shield if you want, in order to try and neutralize some of that damage. See if only 35 ends up opting for that. But push in the hands of Conviction early on. And yeah, I think overall arc of the game, just given that this is an on-hit Varus, I do want to see CCG try and attack this bot lane, because I think that if on-hit Varus gets ahead in this matchup, you stat check Sivir pretty hard. Just the attack speed steroid you get early on from killing creeps and stacking up the Blight, you outrange Sivir pretty significantly as the Varus as well. So would love to see CCG try and cash in on some of that early power and the setup that a Nautilus can bring to try and have an impact on the bot lane.
Definitely thought that Tomio was going to try to use bot push as an advantage to secure bot crab, but he just went for the top crab instead. Syncs up his base with Dardoch because of it. Fiji getting a nice trade on the sniper, and the wave now in a not so nice spot for this Mbessa. Sniper's going to be forced to take a recall just because of the health.
Oh, we're healing to get an auto off. This forced the spell shield from Tactical to dodge out on the passive route from Nautilus, but yeah, Sniper's going to have to get back. And again, Fiji knows his Scion matchup so well. This is his main. It's what he's known for in solo queue. It's one of the most banned champions this split against CCG. So, I, again, saw that Gwen ban first rotation. That was the only change that we saw in bans. Screaming Scion to me early on for Fiji. This is maximum comfort for him, and we'll see if he's able to cash in.
Fiji has teleport advantage on Sniper at the moment. Stays, because he still has the health to be able to at least sustain himself. Bot lane getting a little funky here. Heal popped by Bounty just to have the movement speed. They look for the Tingle Bard's flash on it, only 35, but he flashes out of the Boomerang Blade at the right frame and dodges out on first blood.
That was really close coming out from the bot lane of Conviction, as Bounty, again, I'd say Bounty's a player that we're still kind of learning stuff about Bounty, because he comes from Grandview University. I know I talked to Coach Colthrow over there, who is an old school favorite of mine, and said, you know, Bounty's a player that is not afraid to make mistakes if it means that he's progressing the game forward. And I feel like in this team, that's a mentality to have, because I think a lot of players would see, you know, playing on a team with Insanity, Tomio, Sniper, Tactical as a lot of pressure. I don't feel like Bounty has been fazed by that pressure on this squad. He's been really willing to play these ranged champions and show off his hands to the best of his ability with Tactical, and it's been an asset to the team, not a liability. As someone that stepped in late as a sub and a rookie into the NACL, that's a pretty tall order.
You say range supports. When I think of Bounty in recent performances, I think of the Blitzcrank. I think of the hook champions that he's been able to get his hands on. And as we said before, sometimes those champions can be, I don't want to say questionable, but they can feel somewhat limited until you make the game-winning hook, and then suddenly, okay, now we understand why we picked this champion. And Bounty, always bold, always never afraid to make those plays in particular. Also representing Brazil as he comes from the Tier 2 CB LoL scene. I know that many fans have been very supportive of his joining to Conviction and making this deep run in playoffs so far.
Our clears continue for the jungle. That first window to look at Dragon around that 5:30 mark, not going to be taken by either of them. As Dardoch going to continue. I think Tomio in this matchup is just going to rush that Hex plate. Insanity forced to flash as Dardoch with the ward hop. Sonic Wave connects. You got to believe that Execute would have had Insanity under threat. Well played by Aojun, who of course got the counter pick. And himself is playing his first play of the split. So showing some of the flexibility that we didn't even see throughout the split from the mid-jungle duo of CCG.
Yeah, the way he's played this matchup so far, you wouldn't even guess that it's his first one of the split, but probably has been putting a lot of reps into his back pocket. Would have to try and dig through the archives to see if this was something that he played during his first split with CCG last year when he and Dardoch were on that roster together. As I didn't even think about Deathfire Touch being also quite nice on this Hui champion, but that is something that seems to at least be allowing him to win the priority into this Rise matchup, and that's going to be crucial as bot lane under fire. Remember, only 35 down a flash from the previous all-in attempt from Tactical and Bounty, but at least Cody Sun still has sums.
This on-hit Varus hasn't been going the way that I hoped, as Saber and Nico have been really enabled to play the wave and use the range and the power of Nico early on to pressure. Cody Sun hasn't really been able to match, so I am curious. I think he's going to be going for the hybrid build, Rafa, though. Is that first element he has in his inventory a leading credence towards the static Shiv? And I think Varus is very much slept on for some of the AP ratios that he has and how bursty this can be. It's going to be a tankier topside for Conviction yet again. And those Blight stacks, if given some bonus AP behind it, can really chunk for that % damage.
I mean, the fact that static Shiv on the Energize proc applies AoE on-hit effects to anyone caught in the Chain Lightning, that is just diabolical. And
I
you
have
can get
thoughts.
a lot of value.
I have game design thoughts on that, personally.
Well,
it really elevated Teemo this last patch. I mean, we are truly getting into satanic territory. Teemo was nerfed on live patch.
Yep, Teemo was nerfed on live
and
patch
rightfully
for
so.
a reason.
And I don't even hate. It's not even just off of hate. It's just he needed to be nerfed.
He was a little too strong. I know that Lennon was enjoying a lot of his time when he was autofilled to top lane. It's like, wait, Teemo is now strong? Oh my gosh, I have a carry champion.
You didn't have to throw him under the bus to the public like that.
No,
no.
I mean, he's a good Teemo player.
I don't care. That's even worse. You just made it worse. You can't be a good Teemo player.
Oh my goodness. Lennon, I stand with you. You can be a good Teemo player, buddy. As Dardoch on Vision is going to be taking these grubs.
That's unethical hooping. All right, Dardoch's on the grubs. Dardoch, we caught up with him before the match today. Again, I think Dardoch has really embraced being a leader for the team. There was a great video posted to Only35's Twitter that featured some behind-the-scenes comms for CCG. And Dardoch speaking on the group, it said the mentality's great. We are really like-minded in terms of goals and what it takes to achieve them. And that's made our journey of improvement a lot smoother. Again, auto boost even today, still talking about improvement and how they can scale up. As Insanity being flashless is going to be the ult connecting from Hui, but Dardoch not able to find the dive as Insanity slinks out far enough back behind his turret to escape with a -1.
The constant pressure from Aojun's Hui here in the mid lane is at least allowing Dardoch to find windows to either drop vision aggressively into Tomio's jungle, keep track of him, and denying him any chances to look aggressively on the map. So far, it's been a trade of neutral objectives. The grubs for CCG, the first dragon to Conviction. It's not going to be Ocean Soul or Infernal Soul, so higher chances of high rolling one of the more valuable souls this game for Conviction if they can get the Drake stacking. Dardoch covering Fiji on this wave just to make sure that Sniper doesn't go for a cheeky all-in.
A cheeky public execution that would lead to the public execution of Sniper. As, yep, not going to find it. TP back from Fiji unless he wants to ult back in. So, again, Handshake's top. And Fiji, one of the things he's been really vocal about, on the Scion in particular, it's not building the Bombies items. Bombies items, they are not efficient items overall. The passive, of course, is really powerful. It does help you win lane, but it does not help you in the team fights. And the team fights are what the Fiji prioritizes on this champion. So it's going to be unending despair, Spirit Visage, and this is something that I feel like he was ahead of the curve early on in the split. Now when I look at Scions globally, it's mostly Unending Despair into Spirit Visage and really prioritizing what you can do you know, in the team fight scenarios. But he was quick early on. I think, again, ahead of the curve compared to what top laners are doing globally with some of these builds on the Sion. Just, again, a lot of proficiency on this champion for Fiji.
It's beauty of being a tank enthusiast, and one that we don't often see here in NACL when it comes to rookie top laners making their names over the years. It's very rare that you see champions or players that are straying away from the likes of the Riven, the Fiora, the Aurelia, and just saying, yeah, I love Sion. I love Cassante. I love Ornn. Those are my bread and butter.
That's actually why Only 35 is grateful for his teammates, because his top laners are always picking tanks for him. But again, speaking of the team environment, CCG been, I think, very public, and again, what they've put out, it's been a team that they've enjoyed playing and improving together, and it shows on the Rift. Very early on in the split, it was clear from week 1, this was a good team of 5. And like, they talk a lot about growth and how they've gotten better, and they have throughout the split, but I think from week 1, like where I had them in my own tier list was around 5th or 6th, and they looked better than that for the entirety of the split. I know they ended up as a 4th seed. Top 3 teams we had in the regular season did have a little bit of edge over them, but very clear this was a team that played well together as 5. They had a style. They played it well.
Yeah.
And they got off to a hot start because they were sticking to that and getting a lot of wins off of good teams in the league. So it was good to see.
Potential pick on the bounty. Sidesteps the QQ. Does not...
Sorry.
What?
It's way. You're right. It's just its way. And the QQ back-to-back was funny. It's like, you know, we're ooh-wooing up here in the NACL.
No.
Okay. You can flame me for that one. That's fine.
No, I mean,
yes.
If you want an ooh-woo from me, Matt, you just let me know. You know, you don't have to beat around the bush around it.
I'll tell Dardoch to hover Quinn jungle next game.
Woo! That's what I love to hear. All right, CCG looking for second dragon of the game. No contest coming out from Conviction, as bounty being chunked out means that only 35 has the advantage when it comes to support priority on the map. Even trying to get some vision and potentially look on to Tomio's red buff, but because he is pushed away, it's a call for mid lane dive. Insanity has flash backup and available. Dardoch at only 35 constantly hovering, allowing Aljun to pressure this turret, pressure Insanity's rise. He steps up, but only 35 is waiting in the shadows. Flash dredge line right on top of him. Death charge comboing with that spiraling despair, but not enough damage just yet. Aljun forced to flash away because Tomio's looking for the kill. Pops the flash. Ragnarok undertows away and knocks him down with the reckless swing, and it's first blood for Tomio's Olaf.
That's big. It's not the Hexblade, it's the Stride Breakers. They're getting the slow, the utility, and man, I didn't even think about the fact that Sivir is going to be ascending this Viking in max velocity into the backline. A Viking that is going to be doing a lot of work later on in this game. I think CCG, they have a pretty a front line that kind of has to go in. And Olaf is going to be very, very happy in that scenario, having the Sivir boost, getting into this team. And frankly, if Olaf is not bursted or dealt with, he's a problem. I know if you guys were watching a recent T1 games, we saw what Dorn was able to do with the economy on the Olaf. A jungle Olaf not going to quite have the same economy, but still, this is a champion that can be very diabolical and very game warping if not dealt with properly in the group, or early game, really, if he's allowed to group up on even terms. And Tomio now a little bit accelerated into this game with that first kill going over to him. Going to be very nice for the Viking.
And I think that's so interesting about Olaf in the modern meta, because when you look at Olaf in prior metas, when he was just a jungler and not always a top laner, it always felt like, oh, this champion's early game focus.
Yes,
he has
one
a lot
mistake,
of early game
GG.
damage. He has a lot of early skirmishes. Yes, he has a lot of early skirmishes. But I think Whippo really helped kind of rewrite the book on
there were some
Olaf
changes
actually being. Yeah, there's a lot of changes. Hang on. Bounty, Pop Blossom Flash tries to capitalize on a flash with Aljun, and Tomio secures his second kill of the game. Rift Herald, however, picked up by Dardoch.
They gotta kill Tomio.
Kick onto Tomio, knowing that there's no Ragnarok, and a big execute comes out from Dardoch's Lee Sin. Public execution off of the Rune Prison. Dardoch forced to flash. Sniper doesn't care. He slices him down anyway. And now Fiji might be a tank, but he's got no damage that's willing to bail him out, so he has to take the slow walk. Doesn't look like he's going to be bursted out anytime soon, but Sniper and Insanity going to make that walk painful as Tactical pushes in the wave into the mid-tier 1.
Yeah, they did kind of tickle Fiji on the way out. The fact that they were able to get Tomio was big, because he did have Ragnarok back up in that fight. It's back on cooldown. So again, that burst critical, and I really feel like that Static Shiv, some of the ability power coming in for Cody-san was clutch in making sure that Olaf went down, as we saw Olaf melt quickly. And if we end up getting a replay of that fight, guarantee it's from a Blight stack being popped with a WQ coming out of Cody-san to make sure that they found the execute. As Insanity, they get pressured a little bit. There's no MR items yet on Fiji, but he doesn't care as Scion on the rise. He's going to be getting the go, or at least getting Insanity to speed on away.
Just making sure that Insanity does not stay for a long time, only a good time. CCG making sure that they can further put resources into this Scion, but Insanity just waits for him to push in the wave. So seems like at the end of the day, it's just a quick rotation to potentially start making his way towards his second item. We've got a quick replay of this fight, though, in the top side.
Keep your eyes on the Olaf, because Tomio has Ragnarok coming up in a couple seconds and ends up popping into this fight. So finds Aojun. You're going to see Ragnarok go off here. Yeah, that's one Blight stack. And then Sonic Wave flash out, and then 3 Blight stack again, I think, being popped. Dardoch had the execute, but you see the work being done by Cody-san. Nice find by Sniper, as CCG did lose a lot of the health to the Olaf, even though Tomio went down. So a good public execution gets a kill on the Ambessa. Trades a punny, but Dardoch with the Herald means we'll see what CCG can get when they end up dropping Shelly onto the Rift.
Always a question of whether it's going to be a sieging Shelly or a combat Shelly. As we've seen multiple times, getting a lot of AoE knockups if you just drop it on the next dragon fight, which is spawning in the next 30 seconds. The choice is in Dardoch's hands as he finishes his second item, matching that of Tomio's Hexplate with the Sundered Sky. So both of our junglers, once again, our featured face-to-face matchup, still being some of the most prominent members here on Summoner's Rift for this Winners Final.
I am pro-combat Shelly. I wonder if we're going to see that drop during this dragon fight.
Me too, man.
CCG going to pull this one for themselves. And Conviction, we'll see if they want to make their fight felt. I don't think they're strong enough yet based on Sivir items, but Tomio's going to send it. On Cody-san, he's dead.
Ran right through, only 35. Is like, what is a Nautilus to a Ragnarok Viking? He eats the backline alive. Drake also secured for Tomio, says thank you very much for the leash. And now Dardoch is trying to run for the hills. He tries to kick away Insanity, but he has to deal with Tomio, who's now running him down. Dardoch has no choice but to try and fight it out, but he is slain by Sniper's Ambessa.
What a find from Tomio in the fight. I didn't even realize that he picked up the dragon as well. As that's a big win for Conviction. And again, so much gold going over to this Viking. As Tomio, I mean, honestly starting to warp the game. That was a fight where Cody-san, he flashed to dodge out on the Olaf in the last fight. So he knows that there's no flash on the Varus this time. Just fully centered on making sure that Cody-san falls. Made the fight really easy overall for Conviction. Gets the smite on the dragon as well. And no hope for CCG to win the fight after both their carries were eliminated by Tomio's Heat Seek and speaking up. Missile in the back line with Ragnarok Viking. He's not done.
To add insult to injury, I just realized in the replay, it wasn't even a smite from Tomio. It was Bounty that stole the dragon.
Oh,
so
boy.
I don't know if Dardoch just didn't combo the execute correctly and Bounty was able to sneak it, but oh, that hurts for CCG. And now Conviction have a 3,000 gold advantage just at the time of Baron spawning on the Rift here. And with this Olaf now being accelerated, he's only going to get stronger and stronger as the game scales up.
Yeah, he has to be dealt with in this game. And in order to deal with Olaf, I mean, you're looking for upfront damage, and CCG just really doesn't have that at the moment. Hwei is going to be damaged over time. Scion and Nautilus are champions that Olaf loves to see in his game because there's just not enough damage on those two champions overall to really ever deal with an Olaf. So, we'll see. I think it's going to be Rageblade coming in next for Cody-san, but he's behind the curve still. Versus this Sivir, who is ahead. Tactical with the Yuntals into the IE. Really like how Yuntals interacts with Sivir. Getting that early attack speed in the fight can really help you spam out a couple bouncing blades that has a really big impact. So, really appreciate that build coming out this game from the Sivir. And Again, the Sivir, I was kind of questioning it in the draft on its own, but man, is it empowered this Olaf pick or what? Is Dardoch?
Oh boy. Oh. Ward hop over the wall. Pop Blossom still clips him, and Tomio's just going to burn the flash to make sure that this blind monk is going 10 feet into the dirt. Conviction now have a chance to look for Baron since there is no smite on the side of CCG.
And I mean, in a season where, again, with Tomio on this team, you got solo lanes like Sniper, Insanity, and later on of the season, Tactical. We're used to seeing Tomio play the facilitators. Kind of specialize on the Vi. I think his Pantheon at times was really good this split. But Tomio does have these picks in his back pocket. I mean, this is a guy in solo queue that spams Rengar, known for Nidalee. And also, again, old school Olaf player. Seeing this angle come in, Tomio will be able to find it and execute it with a rare 5 pick for him has been massive. As Baron's being taken with Fiji, going to find a kill.
Oh no. Tactical call by
Baron,
CCG. Though. Baron will be secured by Conviction. Should be secured. 1200.
That's worth.
Tomio gets the smite down. CCG are just overgrouping from mid, trying to at least get a pick back into their pockets, but they don't find anything else outside of the tactical kill. So for Conviction, might be a worthy death there.
I mean, Dardoch was dead. They two-manned the Baron between the Olaf and the Ryze. That's pretty gross at 22 minutes to find a two-man Baron. But again, some of the power that Olaf can bring, as when you get low, your damage goes up, and Sniper gonna get the flash off Cody's son, and that's significant. Because you know what? That's the only tool that Varus has to deal with his Viking.
Yep. Tomio is already halfway to a Death's Dance or even a GA if he just wants to ensure that
Dance,
his
baby.
life...
He's far enough ahead. It's Death's Dance. Yeesh.
I think the draft from Conviction was just so nice for Tomio to... It's not often that you get given R5 counter pick as a jungler, but just understanding the angle of... If they don't pick any champions that have terrain shaping, like since the Anivia was already gone and there was no chance of an early Trundle being picked for a pillar to like stop it, Jarvan also was banned. So there's not any other champions that I can think of that just stops Olaf from being able to function in this game. A lot of damage on the Sniper. CC chain happens from Fiji Scion.
That's a
Cody's
good
son
chunk.
can't necessarily follow up.
Oh boy.
Okay, Tomio goes all in onto Cody's son. Can he pop him? No, he gets bursted by Dardoch, but Pop Blossom into the slice and dice from Sniper allows them to trade 1-for-1. They find another one onto Aljun. Fiji forced to flash backwards. The rest of Conviction rallying behind in honor of their fallen Viking can now secure the mid-tier turret.
Honestly, I kind of like the initial attempt from Fiji because chunking Sniper, he was down TP in that scenario. But Tomio sets it a little bit too hard there. It's going to be a smiteless dragon, but still one that, given Conviction, has the Baron of the waves in their favor. I think one they can take safely. As Cody's son traded out, I didn't exactly see how Aojin fell in that fight, but ended up finding a happy fight for Tactical in the back half. I just think for the rest of this game, CCG is going to have their hands so full with this Olaf that Sivir and Insanity's Ryze kind of get to run free in the backline. Because if damage isn't coming down on Olaf, you're not killing him, and he's killing your entire team. As we're going to get our Philips Norelco precision play. Going to be a replay of this fight in the mid lane. Again, I like the idea of chunking Ambessa, because Ambessa doesn't have TP. And with CCG rotating over here, I think that this is somewhat available. Only 35 going in. No one followed up on Insanity. That kind of put Aojun in the rough spot. Of course, Cody's son found, and Insanity just completely one-shots Aojun in the backline. So a little bit of a split call there from CCG. I think only 35 or CCG, I don't think they can turn on the Ryze. But I think only 35 had to run away from the Ryze, maybe hook into the wall. East though, and then maybe they can look to cohesively turn on the Ryze after they got that Olaf, who did overextend in the fight a little bit.
Yeah. Something nice about this wave pickup that kept Cody's son alive a lot longer than Tomio was probably banking on was, I think it's Hui's WE that gives you the, or maybe it's the WQ that gives you the pool that shields you.
Oh,
no, the shield.
It's the WW. I got you. I'm a Hui ARAM enjoyer, you know?
Okay.
It's,
because WE is his like
that's the auto
mini
attack.
Nami E.
Yeah.
It's the mana on hit, right? Yep. WQ is the river. Okay, yeah. So it's WW for
we got you.
But
we got you.
yeah. But that was a fat shield between, and I don't think Cody Sun had barrier up because it's just about to come off cooldown. So the fact that he was able to live that long between the Lee Sin shield and the Hui shield. Oh yeah, lock it too.
Yeah, definitely helps
It's
out.
actually deceptively a lot of shielding, despite coming from champions that you wouldn't necessarily associate being Enchanter champions.
Yeah, definitely Enchantress kind of missing in this scenario. Again, we're giving kudos to CCG with Fiji being more of a dedicated tank player and their ability to play Enchantresses. The Nautilus, I could see the theory going into the Nico for the lane they wanted with the Varus, but missing that Enchantress plus tank combo that is so lethal later on in these games when you do have a Scion that is sitting on almost 6 stacks of an HP bar.
We're about 2.5 minutes away from Cloud Soul being an option for Conviction. And, I mean, if you want to talk about high-rolling options for Olaf in particular, oh, man, you get a movement speed boost on top of a Sivir ultimate, and then you ulting from Ragnarok, too. Oh, boy.
I'm scared.
How do you outrun that from CCG's backline?
I'm scared for CCG in this game. I just don't think the Varus was ever able to get ahead where the on-hit items that are slightly cheaper than the crit items actually made a difference for Cody Sun, and Olaf's been so much pressure for him that he's really struggled to find his, just find a fight in this game that he can play, because he's dealing with his Olaf that's just been ahead in this game. And I know Scion can live forever, but I'm looking at an Actualizer Rise, an LDR now on Sivir that's going to really help cut into that Scion, and 3 items on Sniper Zambessa, and 2 Death Stances. So I feel like CCG just didn't hit the windows that they needed to hit earlier on in this game to really get in and have a chance. And now Conviction, the amount of damage they're going to be packing for this last fight between the gold lead they have and the items showing in inventory, more importantly. It's going to be a tough one for CCG to deal with.
Oh! I thought that was the real one, but it was a minion clone from Bounty's Nico, trying to see if they could bait out any cooldowns from CCG. Baron has spawned. Cloud Soul will arrive to Summoner's Rift in about a minute's time. Rest of Conviction trying to maintain some vision control in this top red quadrant. Continue to make CCG's life very difficult when it comes to face checking. Public Execution burns the flash out of Aojun's Hui. Now he gets rooted up, and easy pickings for Conviction. And Tomio has his sights onto the backline. Bounty with a pop loss of flash clips him, and we're riding into Valhalla on this one as Tomio just sends it onto Cody Sun, runs down Dardoch, and all Fiji can do is just try and delay the inevitable. Conviction with a massive advantage are gonna push it in for the win.
25 seconds on Aojun. They don't feel like they can get the win on this push. They can just retreat, get Cloud Soul again. This game just feels done and dusted in favor of Conviction. Tomio, I mean, one of the players that I think sometimes is a quieter member of this team, just given that he does feel like more of a role player at times on this team. What a pop-off game from him. We know that at times he's got the mechanics where he can really put on these big performances on some of these champions. What a game to find this R5 Olaf that really worked the draft in his team's favor. Made this game so hard for CCG to play as they don't quite find the end. Dardoch's gonna do his best to get funky, but yeah.
He knows that the game is pretty much out of CCG's favor, so has to look for something to catch Conviction off guard when they are looking for the dragon, but Insanity has Bounty for backup. Secures another kill on a Dardoch. Sniper, the public execution on the only 35. Insanity's there for backup, and now it's just easy pickings. Conviction can clean up this Baron too, and we are just one more good team fight away from Conviction being on match point in our winners finals.
This team in the regular season, I mean, almost felt like they were bluffing in terms of their true strength. And I feel like we saw that at times. Again, I love the phrase in sports, class is temporary, form is forever. As the form of these players in Tier 2, we always have seen these guys be competitive. Insanity, I really can't think of a split where Insanity's been bad. As he's going to pack a redemption in his back pocket now to help out with the Olaf.
That's awesome. Who needs more damage? You know that the real star is this Olaf just sending it into the backline and providing him with another source of healing on top of it.
I would have went nice foul, but besides the point. This is a fun one from Insanity.
If Insanity can't keep up with the Olaf, you can at least throw down a ranged redemption. Whereas Knight's Vow, you do need to
we have
be right next
seen
to him.
Tomio go a little deep at times, and at the moment we're seeing Tomio find the Olaf on the sidelines.
Oh boy.
Yep.
No flash on Aljun. Yep. Easy public execution to snipe for Sniper. CCG down their mid laner. Realm Warp coming in. Insanity is ready to just dive under the inhibitor tower. Cody's son eaten alive. Fiji arrives a little too late to the party. And a 3-man pop. Blosser Bounty is going to set up this Viking to Ragnarok and roll all over CCG. Fall without any true contest in the face of Conviction. And they're on match point in our winners finals.
Oh, wait. Fiji actually TP'd out. That's kind of clever. He's going to live. I don't think that he's going to be able to defend the Nexus, though. What a game from Conviction. What a game from Tomio, as he was the highlight performer on this one. And Conviction find themselves a 2-0 lead and try to hopefully, for their sakes, break the trend of us going to max games for the duration of these playoffs outside the one series where CCG found the 2-0 over NRG. But this is one where Conviction quite dominant on the day. I had this one as a 3-1 going into the day, and definitely feels like Conviction, they want to find the 3-0 as they're trying to make sure that they shut things down in time.
It might just look like that, Matt. I am not going to lie. The momentum that they have going into our third game, already on match point, 1 game away from qualifying directly into grand finals on the winner side of the bracket. We'll see on the other side of this break if CCG have any say about that, and if they can pull off a reverse comeback, or if it's just going to be Conviction with the sweep. We'll see you on the other side. The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco OneBlade.
Trim, edge, shave.
Trim, edge, and shave with Philips Norelco OneBlade. One tool for all you need.
Philips Norelco OneBlade presents Shave All Things. Your style made simple with Philips Norelco OneBlade 360.
The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco OneBlade. Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 3 between Conviction and CCG, and Conviction find themselves poised on match point 2-0 in the series, one game away from qualifying to grand finals for NACL spring playoffs, which already puts them in that coveted position of being one of the draft captains for our summer format. And that will be a nice leg up in terms of an advantage.
That's a good shout.
Yes.
That's a good shout, Rafa. We have a bit of an interesting format in summer where you get to, I think LEC was the first region to do it, where you get to pick the groups that you, or pick the teams you want in not your group. And you kind of go down the list from there. So it's going to be pretty unique, as, of course, summer stakes a lot higher in the NACL for summer, given that, of course, if you are top 2, you get to compete for an LCS slot, something that 3 of the members of Conviction tried to do. They were not able to knock DSG out with Luminosity Gaming this past year. But they're back, look good, and frankly, look like the team to beat with the teams that we have left in these playoffs. As Conviction today cannot give enough credit over to Tomio, who I think very frequently with this team is early picking his champion, usually a role player within this squad. But the one game that I've really seen him be empowered with R5 in draft, finds a crazy Olaf angle and runs away with this game. As Sniper very quietly did a lot of work in the team fights. We were talking about that and some of the replays coming in. But CCG backs up against the wall. If trends point towards anything, though, it has been that our playoffs have been killing, as the majority of our series, in fact, all but one, have gone the distance. So see if CCG can make that happen again. You're laughing at the NASA span, I assume.
Yep. Conviction paying their respects. They do not want to give CCG any momentum in that reverse sweep being manifested. And one of those champions that could have been the key to a Game 3 upset from CCG would have been the Dar Dog in Nasus. And unfortunately for CCG, they already tried one of the Dar Dogs in Nefiri, and it was very powerful, not enough to close the finish line. But once again from CCG, same 3 bans from the prior game with the Jace, Bard, and Gwen.
I'm a bit surprised that Gwen was banned, because, yeah, it gives up Orianna. And Gwen, I mean, you can 3-pick your top laner if you want to early pick top and not give over Gwen. So maybe Fiji's looking to early pick his champion again, but frankly, with that Orianna being B1, Aojun likely to go Azir, and we'll see what else they want to pair up with that. Yeah, the other option is trying to find some sort of Galio comp, I think. Trying to overwhelm the Orianna and also try and neutralize. Definitely opens up Dardoch to play a little bit more of a carry on his end.
Early lock-in with the Galios you called out, more than likely for Aojun. In some matchups, it could be flexed over to Fiji. That said, I'm gonna have to double check to see if he's played any Galio games, and he has not so far this split. So more than likely something that can empower Dardoch to go in.
Okay, here we go.
Early Seraphine lock-in. All right.
Okay, so I was talking about this in between the games with you, Mark. I really feel like CCG, a lot of their identity, given Fiji's pool being so tank-heavy, is around Enchantresses. And the fact that they didn't pair Sion up with an Enchantress was a bit of a surprise to me, because that's straying from the team identity a little bit. Seraphine being up, I know Ashe Seraphine's fallen in priority a bit. Galio Ashe Seraphine is a really solid core to kick off this game. Dardoch has plenty of options in the bot lane to try and find the champion that he wants later on. So
could you go Yunara Melio here just to counter Ashe Seraphine?
Just take Lulu. Just take Lulu. It's fine.
All right.
Lulu's better at empowering Yunara, because you're going to rush Ardent in this scenario, which Yunara really wants. So I think it's just going to be handshakes. The fact that Conviction has Orianna, I mean, this is a lot of late game showing. And I do think that Conviction, if I have to point towards a trend in the 3 drafts we've seen now for Conviction, it feels like they're putting a bit of priority on making sure they have scaling, or outscaling the likes of CCG. As CCG, again, I do want to give them a lot of credit for how they're able to play as a 5-stack we definitely saw it in that game one. That was a very competitive game. CCG played their way back into that one very well at times in the grouped up scenarios. But this is, for me, I think Conviction, again, leaning on the strength they have in laning to maybe get to some of the scaling. Another way that you can use that strength that even Auto Boost was teasing, as he gave a nice pre-game interview, giving some kudos over to the might that these players have, as majority of names we have seen in LCS before.
As we continue with the draft, CCG and Conviction taking off some of the meta junglers that are still left in the pool. No Vi to combo with that Orianna Shockwave delivery system. No Xin Zhao to pair with the Ashe Seraphine foundation behind him. So when it comes down to remaining pools, you're looking at things like Pantheon that's still up on the table. Outside of that, maybe a Wukong could be looked at to at least be another ball deliverer for Tomio and Orianna. Would also be nice with an Ashe Seraphine behind it as well, because you prefer those long extended fights. Just comes down to whether Conviction needs more setup or more of a carry from their jungler going into the final picks and bans. And the early Vayne, I don't think Fiji is necessarily a Gnar player. Well, since actually
Gnar's
was
out.
fearless out. Yeah.
He is a Cassante player. He is an Orange player.
just trying to remove Vayne from the pool of... Ooh, okay, this Skarner's a flex. It's a flex.
Yep. Okay, I like this. Fiji was quick to play at top. The Skarner Q, you have an 11% max HP damage. So kind of a creative flex here. A pick that we have seen Fiji play. Dardoch has not played this split, so... oh, this is a high-value Trundle.
Oh, boy.
It's a high-value Trundle.
Whether that Trundle faces the Skarner in the jungle or can just sap the Skarner stats later on with Subjugate.
Galio, too. Yeah, I mean, you don't care about Galio. That damage is not existent to you as Trundle, and you can zap his stats, too, if you want. That is a high-value Trundle.
And when you think about the ways that CCG want to engage, it's hard for them to brute force past a pillar. You can send out Encore, you can send out Ashe Arrow, but then you can delay that. Kindred instantly locked in.
Let's go.
My goodness, Dardoch Kindred. Oh, baby.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that after you see the Trundle, just the fact that, again, Skarner's been played by Fiji. We got a smirk from Dardoch. The 5 pick from Tomio is what dictated and ran that last game. This game, we'll see if Dardoch can utilize his 5 pick in a comp where he is very much empowered on the Kindred, between the fact that he has a Galio and a Seraphine as boons to help buff him up. And honestly, really easy matchup to navigate against the Trundle is, of course, that pillar. And not one you're all too worried about, as you got plenty of hop, skips, and jumps as Kindred to deal with that.
I don't remember what game it was from, but I remember distinctly in the back of my mind a Dardoch Kindred play where he flash Qs to get the smite off of a crab to hit level 6 and wins a very important skirmish by having access to Lamb's Respite. I don't know when it's from, but it's tugging at me in the back of my mind like a core memory.
Okay. Yeah. That's I appreciate how you were so quick to find that old memory of some Dardoch Kindred there. But hey, tanky
you
tanky
had to
top
make
side.
It weird, bro.
Tanky top side.
Living on nostalgia, and you're making it weird.
Sounds like you're living on the edge. But
you.
A tanky top side coming out from CCG as
it's
the Kindred.
Me, it's him.
We'll see if the Kindred can end up getting some stacks. As 4 stacks, magic number here for Dardoch going into Conviction. Backs up against the wall for CCG, and Dardoch got his carry.
Historic counter pick into the Trundle, as Trundle loves to stat check any fighters, but Kindred is a marksman. And if Kindred can always maintain that arm's length into the Trundle with her mobility, and despite small range as a marksman, still a range advantage over something like a Trundle, Trundle doesn't get to have fun ever in 1v1s in these river skirmishes. So Tomio not going to even look for an invade. The question is, does Dardoch go for something like red buff into hop over the wall and invade? He's angling for it. Something tells me he might try and push into Tomio's blue jungle.
Well, if he does, he would get bad news. So I think Dardoch is going to try and find stacks elsewhere. Both junglers clearing top to bot.
Never mind.
As Again, I think another concern I have real quick is a Fiji matchup in the top side. This is very Renekton favored early on. You need levels as Skarner. Renekton's a very happy camper. You can also break the shield of Skarner. So the slow that he has or the harass is just not enough. But Fiji going to try and utilize the shield and the slow Comet to get his way through this matchup. And the fact that Skarner didn't take grasp in that matchup, again, really speaks to the fact that you cannot brawl the Renekton early on. Or pretty much ever as Skarner in this matchup.
Yeah. It's tough. But at least you can try and get some chunks with your W
More
spam.
control over Lamb's Respite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little suppression or the E out, 2 displacements. Be quite nice for Skarner.
That is a wonderful point. I didn't even consider that, but that'd be a nice way to bait Conviction in and then just push them off of the heal there at the end, or just the invulnerability. Both junglers have made their way to the bottom side of the map here, and Trundle ever so slightly somewhat faster on the clear, but now that Dardoch has access to all of his spells, he can start executing some of these higher health targets, so they should be arriving to crab spawns around the same time. Mid lane, somewhat chunked in the health department, but Insanity lower on mana than Aojun is, and he manages to get this push in, so he can help Dardoch contest for bottom River Crab, and if Tomio wants to keep things stable, he might just run to the top side. However, Kindred Mark spawned on the top crab, so now there's a premium on that side of the map.
That Trundle sprinting up there to try and deny it. Dardoch going to take this first crab. And see if he actually goes for a bot play. He might hop over this wall, Rafa.
Oh, but look at that ward. Conviction know it's coming.
Wow.
They put a ward in the Dragon Pit, anticipating that Dardoch would try and look for something aggressive on the push from Tactical and Bounty, and that saves them.
That was cute. I was not expecting that. That was really nice. Jungler is going to base. Tactical gets out of the first attempt bot. That was dissuaded by a ward, and Tactical, before the series, had... Oh, hold on. That's the wrong side of the rift for Aojin. He's going to try and TP out. Oh, yep. The pillar is going to probably come in. Yeah, can't even get to there.
The pillar, and
That's a
Tactical
freebie.
is here to at least pick up some assist gold. First blood goes into the pockets of Tomio.
He gets a piece. Tactical, before the series, was talking about what his team needed to win, and honestly just returning to NACL for him, as he didn't start the split here. But Tactical, again, always a player we think highly of when it comes to his time in NACL. Returning to NACL, my focus has been making sure all of my individual fundamentals are consistent. Team play is important too. I think we always have a chance to win if I have a stable game state. Speaking towards some of that consistency. We'll say game one, I think we saw CCG really try and punish Tactical and make his game state unstable in some of those grouping up scenarios, but we've seen Tactical these first 2 games. It's been heavy leads for the Conviction bot lane coming out of the lane phase, so I think it's been a very good series from him and Bounty. As Bounty, that Nico, I feel like, was a kind of an unsung hero at times of the last game, even if the focus was really on the top side of Conviction, which had monster performances between the Ambessa and the Olaf.
Yeah. Tactical definitely playing more of a utility role with the Sivir pickup in that second game, but he and Nico constantly getting the push there and at least threatening Cody Sun and only 35 with the push under the tower. Gave a lot of room for Tomio to play with in that signature Olaf game. We're at 5 minutes though. First dragon has spawned. Trundle can burn these dragons relatively fast and very healthily thanks to the chomp, but Dardoch currently has the bot lane push in his stead, so we'll see if CCG want to try and look for that and push Tomio off, knowing that he does not have flash from the punish onto Aojun.
I gotta say, I think Kindred's kind of a unique counter or answer. Obviously, we know this pick into the Trundle is a positive matchup, but Yunara is a really bursty champion, and I find Yunara to be very strong and difficult to deal with at times. The fact that you have the Lamb's Respite to get out of, I think, a lot of the upfront damage that I'm expecting from this comp between Yunara and what you can do when that second item comes in and you press ult and just start ripping attacks instantly, and then the shockwave coming out from Insanity. I want to see if Conviction kind of holds some of their tools back, because A lot of the goal of Lamb's Respite is obviously it keeps you alive. You can survive through some of that damage, but for me, it's a lot about the control and the back half of it. Like, when it expires, what tools do you have up and available to try and punish or get something else? And that's one where I think Conviction can easily fall into the trap this game of using too much too soon and be in trouble. And I want to see if they can be disciplined around playing the Lamb's Respite. And also, between Aojun and Fiji, do we have Galio alt-timed with the expiration of Lamb's Respite? Do we have the taunt saved? Or is Skarner going to, also save his ult or stuff like that? It's going to be interesting to track as this game goes on. Did see a jungle trade. Of course, Dardoch took the dragon. Good play by Tomio to answer on the top side and at least take away the red buff from the Kindred.
Yep. Standard handshake from junglers. Yep. If the enemy jungler is going for dragon, you can at least take away their second respawn red buff or whatever the buff they had on the opposite side of the map there. I think it'll be a testament to how much CCG has practiced at least playing with this Kindred if they're able to time it. And we find out later that it's something that just kind of spur of the moment. This is a really good angle and they're able to make it work. Then it speaks even more to the coordination, the communication that CCG has been able to boast in this playoffs run so far. That said, 4-man potential roam onto the bottom side of the map with Aojun getting the first push and only 35 leading the charge, trying to see if they can force this dive. Tomio is waiting in fog. And
I think Insanity read this. There's a control ward and Tactical.
They gotta be careful. Tactical burns the cleanse to be able to get out of the Ash Arrow. Still no Encore available from only 35 since he is only level 5. Tactical putting the pressure, has the confidence with Tomio right behind him to make this aggressive push. And only 35 Cody's Son now have lost prio on this wave.
Yeah, good clicks coming in from Tactical. I think the alternative to the bot dive from CCG was actually to try and contest the red buff of Tomio that just spawned. And Dardoch, just given where his bot lane's at, not going to be able to maybe take a peek see at that one either. So it's going to be Dardoch farming his way back up towards this top side, where, of course, Grubs will be spawning. And I think overall an objective that CCG would like to prevent Conviction getting. Good buffer on the stun there from Sniper. Prevented him from getting dragged into the turret.
Yeah, not enough time for Fiji to be able to get a turret shot off, which either would have at least threatened lethal or maybe a early Dominus pop from Sniper, but now he has the ult advantage for the next time he comes into that lane. Both teleports available.
Yeah, I think that's Grubs, because Dardoch did hop over the wall. He's going to take Tomio's red, and the Grub's going to go over to...
There's a ping for bot.
Team that has Dominus.
Going mid instead. Oh, it's going to be a dive on bot lane.
Yeah,
so Tomio will get all 3
spotted.
Grubs, but Tactical no cleanse, and it's an easy dive setup for CCG's 3-man core, not even needing to pop a single ultimate ability in that attempt.
And a mark, I believe, for Dardoch, too. He's got 2 marks to his name. You can see next to the flash there on the Kindred. I actually didn't know they had Kindred marks in this new UI. That's nice. I appreciate that. Usually I have to wait until, they click on his abilities, then we see. So Dardoch at 2 marks. Again, 4. Big break point, as 4 gives you bonus range and bonus power.
I'm not going to lie. That was so wholesome. Just the genuine surprise, like, oh my gosh.
I didn't know that.
The UI update. Well, they made it happen for Senna and Smolder and Scion. I'm glad that they have covered all of their bases, even with champions that we don't see often here in pro play, as we are a minute and 20 seconds away from our second dragon of the game. 3 Grubs going over to Conviction, the first one going over to CCG. This is a composition that would like to Drake stack, and if you have the time to be able to at least force it against Conviction. But the split push potential on things like this Renekton, if Fiji's not able to hold his own in the long run, can always be a threat now that Sniper has access to 3 Grubs, and we saw how well he was able to use that economy advantage in that game 1 performance on the Gnar.
Really big. I think Sniper's been really big in this series, and been nice to see a little bit of a glow up for Sniper when the games matter more, because again, regular season, you're getting solo killed 3 times by a rookie top laner who's playing in the promotion relegation tournament for NACL. I don't think that's where you should be at as a player, the pedigree and the elevated, thought I think of Sniper as a player. So it was a little bit of a rough regular season for him, but nice to see in playoffs. I think he has been really sound, what we've seen out of the top lane. And we know that if Sniper's able to provide the consistency, the pop-off moments are, of course, always there. And part of the big reason why a lot of people behind the scenes are also just fans support him and want to see him succeed. So, and good to see
Very
him
much
have
so.
a much better playoff run and see what he can get done in this matchup. That so far Fiji's done a nice job of neutralizing, and of course Skarner does scale nicely into. I do not want to underestimate the damage of Skarner Q. Again, it's 11% HP damage on that Q when you're able to throw it out. It's pretty gross what you can do.
Dominus being popped by Sniper. He knows that all the action's going to be on the bottom side of the map, so Fiji will not have any help in being able to contest this push. But both teleports have been used, so not going to see any action from the Croc or the Scorpion on this second Dragon. Dardoch is pushed out. Oh, great pillar by Tomio. Dardoch might be in trouble, has the hero's entrance to back him up.
So
Lamb's
much
Respite
burns.
still at the ready, but quite many tools. Ash Arrow and Hero's Entrance now gone. The only engaged tool you have left is in Encore, and it's enough for CCG to just give this Dragon over.
Dardoch's out. He's going to take the mark that he has on the top side, so that's going to be 3. But I think Aojun just pulled the trigger a little bit too fast on that, on the ultimate. Because Dardoch, for me, it was still out of there, given what was showing. So I think Aojun, if anything, you can look to combo your other abilities instead of the ultimate, where Trundle with he had a move speed buff from the terrain from his W that helped him get out of there. So I think CCG smart to pull off that Dragon, but do think that if they didn't burn so many tools early on, it is a Dragon where they might have been able to look.
Very crucial for Conviction to have stopped the Drake stacking from CCG. It would have forced them maybe into uncomfortable fights later on. It's another Cloud Soul game. Many champions will benefit from the movement speed boost upon popping their ultimate, so both of these teams are gonna definitely want to put some priority into finding them. But Dardoch, as you called out, by dropping that Drake prio, manages to put himself on 3 marks, 1 mark away from being considered a real champion, where he goes from 500 to 575 range, and that's a lot more playable for a marksman later on into the game.
I know we spent a lot of time talking about the CCG comp because the Skarner top and the Kindred jungle is fun. I do like the Kindred a lot in this draft. I thought the Skarner flex was creative, but you're expecting that to be in the hands of Fiji. I think it really opened up Dardoch to have that big R5 pick that we saw from Tomio in the last game. But the scaling of this comp for Conviction, I still really favor later on. Just Trundle with a Lulu, and Lulu Yunara and Orianna to hold the line. The fact that the game is where it's at now, with Conviction having the grub advantage, Gold being even, and Dragons being even, as this game continues, I'm going to favor Conviction more. And I think the one saving grace, and I think the change of the trends of what we've seen so far in this series, is the fact that bot lane is even in this game. It's not very heavily in Conviction's favor like we've seen in the first 2 games. So hopefully that's big, but it's pretty rare that I'm going to sit up here and say that in Ashe Seraphine comp, I can see maybe getting outscaled. This is one of those games where I can somewhat feel that way. And want to see CCG start to really push the pedal to the metal, at least in this mid game, before I think Trundle can hit critical mass, or Orianna just gets to be a little bit too big.
Ooh, Ash Arrow from downtown goes wide, doesn't tag anyone. Tactical on the front lines, using the Lulu Wild Growth to get a knockup on the Aojun. Dardoch pops the Lamb's Respite, tries to hold them forward, but the Shockwave clips them back in. Aojun with the hero's entrance only buys a little bit of time, but CCG are still on the retreat, and it's Conviction not dropping a single man in the fight.
I mean, the bot lane of Conviction was free-firing for the duration of that fight, whereas the bot lane of CCG wasn't involved. They were mid, and they were still in transition to try and get there. So, Tactical stepping up and free-firing massive in this one, as that's going to be a big lead now for Conviction, and one that I'm concerned about moving forward for CCG.
Semblance of a 2,000 gold lead has now been secured by Conviction. And against a CCG composition that really needs the economy to function as a powerful 5-on-5 team fighting powerhouse juggernaut that you want to have, where your Skarner and your Galio are tanky enough to brute force the burst damage that comes in from Conviction, and that they can deal with the backline. This is not looking good for their chances, and Conviction should just have priority, not only in both of their side lane matchups, but also for these future objectives at this rate.
Yeah, I mean, I know I just talked about scaling and how I like Conviction later on. Again, I think the game plan for CCG is to try and find absorb and reset. Like with Seraphine, just, again, double surround sound is so big. That is what can augment, I think, some of these later fights, but Trundle scaling is so real. You still have 2 really good subjugate targets in this game. Yes, the Kindred and Ashe can make Trundle's life kind of hard, but Trundle plus Enchantress can be so big. It's with the free resistances that you can steal away, and obviously taking advantage of the buffs you get from the Enchantress too. So I'm not exactly sure what the way out for CCG is, just because so far, I mean, the engages have to come from Aojun and Cody's Son. We haven't seen a lot of the arrows hit, and that one's defensive as Tomio does pop a subjugate, will slink out of there as a double TP comes in before this dragon. So a lot of emphasis being put. I know that you're saying that, but this is a very CCG and a very Fiji move to drop priority on the top side in order to ensure control around a dragon.
It is. We'll see if Sniper is forced to TP back into the lane. Oh, Tactical almost low. Dardoch sends it for one more, but the clutch shield from Lulu keeps him alive, and it manages a 1-for-1 trade. But now there's no smite from the side of CCG, and as long as Tomio is healthy enough, they can try and brute force their way back into the Dragon Pit for a second Drake.
That's kind of brutal because Fiji, again, he TP'd in and then he was trying to go back. He's stuck, and Dardoch doesn't have the smite. I don't know if Dardoch had his ult available or not. Just didn't calculate the damage coming in from the Yunara. But the fact that that trade goes through, you called it out. One team has smite, the other doesn't. And now all that free time up top for Sniper turns into a turret. And Conviction is going to turn that fight into a dragon. So everything comes up Conviction.
Very similar to game 1, where in a lot of these early mid-game skirmishes, Conviction are actively allowing Sniper to stay on the top side, continue maintaining an economy advantage while they handle the pick attempts from CCG.
3, 2, 1. Oh, it didn't have a Lamb Respite available. That was so close. Again, I can understand trying to find tactical in that scenario, as getting him off the map is critical for any dragon fight you want to win. Just doesn't come up CCG's way. As you called it out, Rafa, the Lulu shielding just enough from Bounty. As that's going to be our Phillips Norelco precision play. Oh, it's going to be the last fight. Tactical stepping up. An insta-cleanse on the Galio Taunton. You can see, and Dardoch and Aojun are here, and yes, it's a 5-man Galio ult, but Cody's Son doesn't get involved until it's too late, and has to respect the power that Conviction was showing. And the ball being in the choke, too. Just couldn't step up as Insanity, helping to ensure they get zoned off. Whereas Tactical was free-firing the entire duration of that fight to set up the initial look for Conviction.
And one thing I didn't even really put together, Matt, until now, looking at the builds, because Aojun is going for Hollow Radiance first and is kind of behind the curve when it comes to gold, there's practically no real magic damage that threatens this team from Conviction. So everyone has gone Steel Caps, and your main damage is coming from auto attack champions and these marksmen. And if they're not ahead in terms of gold, they are now behind the curve, and Conviction are ahead. I feel like this team is just not doing any damage to Conviction, despite not having a traditional front line.
Again, I think that's some of the hidden power of Trundle, and Trundle's a champion that I feel like has been kind of forgotten about, as he's kind of a fighter counter. Subjugate, of course, against tanks is great, but even stealing stats early on, he's not a jungler that ramps up quite as fast as some of the Sundered Sky junglers we're used to seeing in the meta, but with Enchantresses, he pairs so well. And this is what, going back to last year's BLG, we saw Shadow playing Karma, Lulu, plus Trundle, and taking a lot of advantage of that over in our coverage of the LPL, right, Rafa? And Trundle's just a really impressive champion who also scales super hard into the game, which we saw in yesterday's series for Winthrop versus NRG.
Sniper forcing Fiji back, using the power of this Dominus.
Try.
Dodges out on the Impale from
trying to
well.
slow into Impale. Just couldn't find it. Slightly off. If he finds that, drags him into the turret. Sniper no ult. It's a maybe, but Sniper, he's got a full level lead off of that TP from Fiji, where they were trying to play the dragon. And again, just winning on both sides for CCG. That is, you know, I think, again, some of the angles that Fiji looks for was sacking his own game and playing tanks. It has been really valuable for CCG throughout this season, but that's the counterpoint. If you don't get enough out of it, you're facing an opponent who has more economy for the rest of the game, and we saw that come to fruition in Game 1. Even if Fiji found a lot of really nice looks with this team that helped put a lot of pressure. They found picks on Insanity and Tactical. I think Conviction didn't feel great about that Game 1 victory. It wasn't nearly as clean as they wanted it to be, thanks to a lot of the pressure and the picks that CCG were able to find. But this time around, it feels like we're in a game where it's, again, just with Yunara, Lulu, Orianna. I love the creativity from the comp of CCG. I do see the value, but this is such a solid core that scales later on into the game that I'm worried for CCG and their ability to fight straight up. I think that Lamb's Respite has to be insanely valuable, or they have to somehow find a way to disengage or absorb the initial engage from a Conviction, which is even more difficult when you're down 3k gold.
Being behind the gold curve sucks for this CCG comp, especially when you're trying to be a 5-man death bowl. And for Conviction, when we look at the entire series holistically, Game 1, like you called out, a lot of oopsies, a lot of errors from Conviction that CCG rightfully punished. But between this game and Game 2, a lot more clean, a lot more consistent looks, less errors, less mistakes from this roster. And when they are boasting this form, poised on match point going into grand finals between CCG and Winthrop, even Winthrop on their current warpath, I'm not sure are going to be enough for Conviction if they make that. Oh, and Insanity just sidesteps the Ash Arrow. TP from Aojun into a Hero's Entrance. That got nothing. It just pushed Conviction off, but they were playing for the Dragon anyway. I feel like CCG are just looking lost at this point.
Again, we're talking about absorbing stuff and saving tools for later. They're burning it all so early.
Shockwave first is the flash out of Cody Sun and only 35. Now they're out of the fight. They have to play range, and Tomio can just walk on forward and force the Lamb's Respite out of Dardoch. Multiple spells being burned. Yes, not a single member from CCG dies, but the pressure alone allows Conviction to claim the third dragon.
I think the way that these two teams are playing these fights is kind of flipped to what I would expect or how it should be. We're seeing a lot of these early tools come out from CCG and get absorbed by Conviction. I want that to be flip-flops. Surround sound is a ton of sustain. That's the type of sustain for your team is not available for Conviction. So, like, bleed out a Shockwave and then try and reset and go from there. I think a lot of these tools being burned early, the way they are, it's really hurting CCG getting into this game and just being able to take these fights. So 2 dragons in a row where they have burned too much too early. It is not connected, and they just have to cede over to Conviction. So Dardoch does get his 4th stack in its stead. Shout out to our observers for highlighting that. He took the Gromp where he did have that mark. So it will be 4 stacks for Dardoch quite late into the game, but does help the Kindred. Not worth dropping the dragon, but hey, at least it's something, right?
We'll see if the additional 75 range advantage plus now the Hex Optics, if it can play a part in finding a reset and extending that range in the team fight, a little bit more safety and trying to pilot around a lot of these scary carries from Conviction's side. But I feel like at this point, yes, the gold lead is not that massive for Conviction, but the way that they are playing the map out, it feels so much more demoralizing in the face of CCG. And I feel like you just have to find a lucky pick from CCG. You need to catch Conviction unaware, just like they were able to find in Game 1, where members were split up, not really set in position to trade objectives on the cross map. But so far, Conviction have been covering all their bases and not giving any free windows to CCG, unlike Game 1.
I mean, again, CCG, like, playing as a 5-stack throughout this split, they have been a very good team in how they've played as 5. It just feels like today, a cautious flash from Bounty, but one that's definitely deserved. He stays alive. Good fish from Cody Sun, but this hasn't been CCG's day-to-day. That's a good pick, though.
Bounty forced to use the Wild Growth. Tomio tries to answer back with a response. Subjugate gives him a lot of healing back. Sniper looking for the flank. Someone momentarily separated, but he doesn't care. He just burns down only 35, and Tactical helps him with the reinforcements. Fiji's going to be the next on the menu, and Tactical is just running him up. The blast code sends them all back into the waiting arms of Conviction. Tactical picks up the 3rd, and you can see in the player cams, Fiji feels this series slipping away from their grasp.
What a big play from Sniper. TPs into the back line. solos out the Seraphine, creative use of the Blast Cone to get a bonus one. That's going to be Baron for Conviction. They've got the Baron buff up for the Dragon, which is their soul, and it feels like Conviction putting away the series, stopping the trend of chaos that we've had so far in our NACL playoff bracket, and booking an early ticket into the Grand Finals.
You cannot help but feel at this point Conviction are just one good fight away from closing it out. They have multiple structures they have to burn through, but the advantage is so massive. CCG are pretty much out of options. And what a story for this Conviction roster, who had a lot of struggles in the regular season, relied on a roster swap to try and change around the identity of the team, try and bring some stability back into the lineup. But it wasn't just the roster swap that cleaned it up. It was a look
players
from
too.
making sure that, the players have to step up as well.
Man, they've really stepped up today. I think Tactical has had a couple of big games, but Sniper up top too. I think some of the angles that he's found. He saved game one, won them, I think, this game with that play around the Baron. As good play by Cody-san. That was nice. He gets a cleanse, is arrow down, and is able to step out of the shockwave from Insanity. That was close, but well managed by Cody, as that's at least tools, but this tool's not changing the script of this game. It's going to be the inner turret that falls. Eojin trying to find what he can, as that is an objective bounty for him and the team, but CCG, their comp really doesn't have wave clear. There's nothing they can do to stop this, and at any point, Conviction can retreat, get a Cloud Soul, and man, a Cloud Soul going to make... talking about happy campers with the Cloud Soul, it is all the above, but this is going to be a scary Trundle.
Thornmail as his third item means that Dardoch and Cody-san will literally be killing themselves as they try and burst down this tank. It is not a good time for CCG. They are in dire straits. 7,000 gold down. Cloud Soul coming up in 15 seconds, potentially for Conviction if they secure it. CCG trying to send Aojun as the first one to face check into the bushes, but the pillar has him caught over the wall, forced to finally flash. Gets Polymorph Sniper, meanwhile finds a pick onto Fiji, and that Skarner just got melted. Tomio now on the warpath, looking to hunt for more. It's standing with a flash and the shockwave to clip onto two. Not even the Lamb's Respite comes out fast enough from Dardoch to save them, and Conviction are going to run it in for the series win.
In a bracket that has been so chaotic and upheaved by many of the up-and-coming teams we have, the 6th seed that was expected to really make it to finals at the start of the year, they have come into their own in this playoff bracket and are looking to book their ticket into the Grand Finals.
For all the NACL fans, for all of the NA League of Legends fans, meet your first grand finalist in Conviction with the 3-0 sweep over CCG. Bora Brazil from Bounty in the player cam.
Man, I mean, this has been such a chaotic bracket. It's been one of the craziest tournaments that I've had the privilege of covering throughout my career. But to have Conviction come in and to, I guess, respond in a way that we expect these guys to. I mean, Insanity, Tomio, Tactical, all considered to be borderline LCS players. Sniper as well. They really, in this playoff bracket, have proven that, again, they, unlike the regular season, they've earned the rights to be considered players in a team that is going to be challenging for that LCS spot in summer. And to win spring, I mean, that would be at least a step in the right direction for the true goal. So, Conviction, I just really feel like regular season again. Class is form is temporary, class is permanent. The class of these players a little bit too high for the league, and they're proving it as they're going to be awaiting a rematch in the lower bracket between CCG and Winthrop to see who earns the right to face Conviction.
And being in CCG's shoes, I don't envy their position because they got clapped by Conviction in this winner's finals and now have to find a way to find that composure again, to regain that confidence going into Winthrop. And while, yes, they have the head-to-head advantage over them in their previous bout in the upper bracket, Winthrop looked like a completely different team, getting stronger and stronger after every best of 5 they have been running in the lower bracket. So now Winthrop having a chance to prepare for CLO finals tomorrow. Regardless of the outcome, will have enough time to prepare for their matchup into CCG, and for their sake, look for revenge in the rematch in the lower bracket. And CCG are going to definitely have to go back to the drawing board to find ways to rekindle what made their run here in the upper bracket so successful in the first place.
Yeah, see, again, CCG has been such a good team throughout this split. It didn't feel like we saw that outside of game one today. And some of that is the individual might of Conviction having leads and making life hard for CCG. But at last draft, I definitely saw the angle for CCG. I thought there was some positives in the draft, and the execution just wasn't there. In this one, as Conviction were able to fully punish. And some standout performances for me for Conviction again. I think coming into the series, we talked a lot about Insanity and Tactical, and these two guys were massive. I mean, Insanity able to build leads mid. I think his comeback in game 2 was really big, as he was really focused and set behind. Tactical was up big in the first 2 games in terms of lane, and game 3 just kind of went off on the Unara. But for me, I really felt like Sniper stepped up today and just had a really solid series. His Ambessa was massive in that game 2. That Gnar play around the Baron was kind of the game saver for Conviction. And then for me, game-winning angle on the Renekton in game 3 with that wonderful TP, soloed out the Seraphine, had a really positive fight from there. So I think the biggest positive for me for Conviction was, I know how good Insanity and Tactical are, but to have Sniper, Tomio, and Bounty as well really step up and have a solid series today, that's making this team look quite scary in the finals.
Yep. I think a lot of us favored Dardoch in the jungle head-to-head, since Dardoch had a much more visually apparent successful season with CCG in the regular season versus Tomio, who was a lot more quiet despite Conviction struggles. But I think there's definitely credit needed that Tomio was doing the best that he could despite some things falling apart around him. But as we look to our MVP for the series, we have to say that almost anyone could have had an argument for having a standout performance today, but between the game 1 clutch Gnar ultimate and this game 3 Renekton flank on the TP, finding the blast cone, that shut the door and set up Conviction for pretty much confirmed results and success, and such a much needed glow up from Sniper, who has really found a lot more consistency and a return to form that we expected from him when the regular season first began.
He also led in damage in game 2. I know he's going up against a Scion, but still, really nice fights on the Ambessa. And, well, I'd love to talk more about his gameplay, but we might as well just let Sniper talk about it himself, Rafa.
I agree. Let's go ahead and bring our good friend Ryan into the interview booth. Oh my goodness, I love talking to this man. Yo,
Thank you, bro.
what is
Thank you.
up, my dude? 3-0 sweep. You guys completely clapped CCG up. I don't know where that came from. I think a lot of us expected a more back and forth series. What did you think was the winning formula for you guys in the sweep?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone played good today. I'm not gonna lie. And I also love talking to you, Rafa. First of all, I just want to say that. But yeah, I think we just match up against CCG pretty good, because I normally like always have a lead, and I think I'm like really good at like helping my team with the lead, because I do use like my TP advantage a lot, and I feel like that's definitely like one of my strengths as a player. But also, I mean, huge shout out to my team as well. Like Tactical and Bounty are completely smurfing it too. Like ever since we got them, it's just been like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just been, they've just been playing really good, you know, and I've just been like very impressed with them. So yeah, shout out to them as well, stepping up.
You can definitely tell that bot lane advantage is alleviating a lot of the pressure for you guys as a team. And I'm noticing that in this series specifically too, there's a lot of moments where CCG are trying to force numbers advantage and you're just splitting on the other side of the map. Is that just because you have so much confidence now with this current lineup that you can continue getting gold for yourself? Is that something that you're proactively calling, or is that something that as a team you are setting up in advance?
No, I think it's just my individual gameplay. It's not necessarily like this lineup or anything, because I love playing with Meech and Breezy. They're both really good. But I think I honestly had like, I don't really have an idea on how I wanted to draft during those weeks where like we weren't that good. But then I realized that like, oh, I should just play the champions I'm good at. You know, like you've seen Ambessa, you've seen Renekton. People know me as like a Renekton player. Not so much Gnar, but I've like picked up like Gnar and Bessa, and
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, not to say I can't play tanks. It's just yeah, it's like a mix and match, you know. And I feel like I figured out how I want to draft thanks to like Mash as well. I feel like we talked about it a lot. So yeah.
I mean, you've put the silent fries in the bag every now and then. You know, you
Yeah.
understand when it's good and when the team needs it. Sometimes someone's got to be the engage if it's not Tomio or Bounty, right? But
Yeah,
I think this consistency that you guys are showing in playoffs is definitely a bigger change from regular season. You mentioned that it's because you now understand better how you want to draft. Do you feel like that was the main reason why Conviction was struggling with consistency in the regular season? Or do you feel like there's just been individual glow-ups as well, in yourself included?
No, I think everyone stepped up, especially Tomio and Insanity. Not to say they didn't play too good in the regular season, but I've been playing with them for a while, and I love playing with both of them. And I feel like, yeah, everyone just stepped up like a lot individually. I feel like everyone just knows what their job is. We're obviously not perfect yet, right? Like in game 1, for example. But I do think I've improved on a lot of the things that like I needed to work on when I was in the LCS. So I'm very grateful I like bounced back from that. Because yeah, I did have a really good opportunity. Everyone on like that 100 Thieves roster was like amazing and everything. But yeah, I'm just glad I could really just bounce back and just show that I'm still competitive, you know.
I mean, we've been big fans of you for quite a while, man. Ever since you first hit Challenger many years ago, and we've wanted to see you bounce back and make your way back to LCS as well. So being able to see this form from you really makes all of us on the broadcast team really happy, and we hope that you and the rest of Conviction can continue showing this form, because it does force the rest of the pool to step up their game and try and match you guys if they want to take it all the way. But before I let you go, any last shout outs that you would like to leave with us here on the broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to my teammates, shout out to my family, especially my siblings. I recently moved into like a new house, so I'm sure like the lighting is much better, hopefully. But yeah, I've moved in with my siblings, and that's like it's honestly been very fun so far, and I feel like things are starting to go up, you know, which I'm very thankful for. So yeah, hopefully we can win the finals next week. Let's go.
You no longer are getting nocturnalted, which is nice here for the interview and on-air stuff. So we appreciate that, but also big dubs on the lighting. Again, always a pleasure talking with you, Ryan. Good luck next week in grand finals. And actually, last thing, now that CCG and Winthrop are playing each other in the lower finals, who do you have taking the win?
What do I have to? I mean, Denethor has been playing really good recently. Honestly, I always like ever since we first I first scrimmed him like 3-4 months ago. I always thought he was like, I literally said this guy's like a top 3 NECL top laner. So I feel like if he shows up, because he does carry his team, then they Winthrop will win. But if he's like, if he's not feeling that good or anything like that, then CCG can also take it. So I'm not too sure, you know. I'll give it to Winthrop though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Winthrop stocks going up again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and good luck next weekend, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you, Rafa. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. That was, I got to say, so it's funny. I was co-streaming the playoff series on Wednesday for Winthrop, and Sniper was in there, and when they were down 2-1, he's like, as long as Denethor gets carries, I think Winthrop can win. It was a Scion game 5, but Denethor did his best to carry that one. As appreciate a lot of the respect being shared amongst a lot of the top laners that we have. Again, going into the season, I felt like it was the best role we had 1 through 10 of the NACL, and
absolutely
we have had a lot of those top laners show up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny because normally jungle tends to be the pool that is super stacked going into a tier 2 regular season, whether it's Proven Grounds or NACL, or even Academy. But top lane, this split, very, very exciting, and it has shown up big here for a couple of key teams here as we look at the updated bracket. Conviction now in grand finals. They will be one of the draft captains for the summer format. Question will come down to whether they get first pick or second pick, depending on who wins grand finals itself, as CCG knocked to the lower bracket, where it will be a rematch against Winthrop University from their very first upper bracket match in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, excited for this rematch because I think that as you highlighted, Rafa, we have seen Winthrop scaling. I will continue to reference the quote that Denethor had that I love, which is, with all the games they've played, it's a mix of comfort and adrenaline. When you keep on winning, the adrenaline goes up, and it's just comfort zone with how they've been able to get used to those high-pressure matches. So I feel like the Winthrop University that we're seeing has scaled up throughout the playoffs. I'm very confident in CCG that we're going to see a better version of CCG than what we saw today. Yeah, I just don't think that... I feel like CCG had some decent ideas in draft. I just don't think that they executed upon them as well as I'm used to seeing from this team that has played well as 5 for the majority of the season. So confident they're going to, go take the next week, figure out, what went wrong today and try and improve upon themselves and put a better foot forward against Winthrop. That's going to be a fun series to watch, but frankly... Right now, Conviction making all of us up here feel rather convicted that they are the heavy favorites to win our first split of NACL. And it definitely helped that they had a convincing 3-0 today.
Like many fans expected going into the regular season, the pedigree of some of these individuals had us favoring them as a top 3 team. Obviously, by the end of the regular season, did not pan that way, ending up 6 seed. And if you think about it, 6 seed is the last seed that squeaks into playoffs. But the fact that Conviction are a far cry from the regular season form.
There was a gap between them and the other few teams. We can be honest with that. But you're right. They were the last team to sneak in, even though they secured the spot, week 8. But yeah, I feel like what you're pointing to, Rafa, is the fact that the regular season form wasn't there and the playoff form was there. I agree with Sniper in the fact that we could have given a lot of players on the team today MVP for who was best in the series. And it just was those flashy moments from Sniper where was able to really make a big difference for the squad. And good to see, honestly, everyone step up. I really appreciate what he was talking about with, highlighting both Antonio and Sanity. But I got to give kudos to Bounty. Again, I just feel like Bounty's stepping into this team. They're 4 big names to play with. You're kind of, in a way, swapping regions, going from Tier 2 CBLOL to this. Yeah. And stepping up in the way that he has. I've been really impressed with him and his play. He doesn't feel like a player to me that is afraid of the moment, which I feel like a lot of supports might be, stepping in halfway through the season to play with Tactical in the squad.
He is holding his own alongside names that have been seen in Tier 1. And that is super cool. That Bounty can measure up and play to the standards alongside these 4 individuals that are still trying to fight a way back into LCS for redemption and for, honestly, a second chance to show that they are more than what was the last of we saw in their most recent LCS stint, whether it's Insanity Antonio from Shopify Rebellion, Tactical from Immortals, or Sniper from 100 Thieves. So this run from Conviction is setting them up to have at least a strong advantage going into summer, which that split is the one that is going to determine who our heavy favorites are going to be going into that promotion tournament that will allow the victor to have a chance to fight against DSG and challenge them for the spot. But ladies and gentlemen, our broadcast is complete for the day. Winners finals wrapped up in the books, and for the week, it is our last broadcast. So next week, though, lower finals and grand finals are going to be back-to-back on June 4th and June 5th. You don't want to miss it. Until then, make sure y'all are staying safe. Enjoy yourself some... Ranked 5s is not out yet. I was about to say Ranked 5s, but... That's where my mind is.
I think Roth is just projecting. Yeah.
Yes. And, game with the boys, go out, have a good time, touch some grass, do some good stuff. Because when we come back, it's going to be lower finals and grand finals and the conclusion of our spring playoffs bracket. So see you all then. The NACL is presented by Philips Norelco OneBlade.